Hello.
Not yet.
Live.
Now we're live.
Live. Oh, yeah. We're live.
What are you jamming to, Adam?
We're live here on the internet. Yeah.
You know, they put Fuser in Fortnite, and we're doing it live now.
What?
Huh?
Yeah, Fuser.
Fuser?
Remember Harmonix's Fuser?
The was game? That a VR game?
No. Oh, man.
What was the VR one? Wasn't there a VR
there were a
one
bunch of VR
where you were like
Look,
remixing?
That was Fuser is the thing, but it's not a VR game.
Ooh.
Fuser gave you the stems from songs, so you could take like the drum track, the bass line, the keyboard, the guitar, the vocals.
Oh yeah. Like Guitar Hero.
Like Guitar Hero, but you could take the stems from one song and play them with the other song, and they would like beat and tone match.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And you could like drop bits. It was so good, and the pricing on the songs was so bad because of the music industry that it was just doomed to failure. And also you couldn't stream it because you'd get immediately taken down in like 15 different ways because of the man.
This explains why I've never heard of this game.
Yeah, it's an incredible game, and
it's great games.
Yeah, it lasted like 6 months, but now all that stuff's built into Fortnite. So you can
Fortnite the game where you build stuff.
Fortnite the game. No, it's Fortnite the game where you shoot people. You can building
stuff.
So
now you can play music in the game where you shoot people.
Yeah, once you're done shooting people, instead of like doing a sick emote on top of them, now you can drop down like the bass line from Hot to Go, and like the vocal line from The Boys Are Back in Town, and the saxophone from the Cantina song from Star Wars.
Nice.
It's
As
sick.
one does.
That is some serious incongruity, but
it works.
It makes sense for Fortnite, where that's basically the brand.
Yeah.
Well, I was at one of my favorite local old game shops here in the Bay Area called the Experience Share on Alameda Island. Really cool place. Really great place. They had up on the shelf a DJ Hero controller, and I was like,
oh, do you want one? I have like 3 in the garage.
Oh, you got an extra one? Okay, yeah, that would actually be kind of fun.
It's fun to. It works as just a normal Xbox 360 controller. You can map it to all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah, that was one of those games where I never played, but I always wanted to.
It's okay.
I don't expect it to be great, but bring it back. Bring back DJ Hero. You cowards.
I kind of want to set up. I kind of want to hook DJ Hero controller up to my mixer now and see if I can
trigger a
get
scene
into
change,
like live scratch and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there you go. See that you would have a competitive advantage because how many other people on Twitch streaming games would have that controller set up?
Only the real weirdos.
Yeah. And you're the weirdest of the weirdos.
Wait, Twitch is. I feel like there's got to be at least half a dozen people out there doing exactly that.
Probably.
I never go on Twitch. So.
Excuse me.
You're YouTube.
I just squeaked like I'm in puberty or something.
Half a dozen.
Wait. Is this the precursor to when I get my beard?
Yeah, there you
that's
go.
what happens.
Yeah,
first your voice changes, then bad acne for a long time.
Yeah, soon your body will start to experience.
And then 15 years, you get smelly and real inexplicably angry and other things.
Yeah. It's okay. It happens.
Yeah. Then you go through your anyway, never mind.
It's the curse of becoming a man.
Then you get real into podcasts.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh good. Oh wait.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
Wait, I don't get it.
This podcast in particular.
All sorts of podcasts.
What happens? Where does the podcast beefing like fit into this timeline?
Happens when you've been podcasting too long, and you're just sick of podcasts.
Okay.
But you can't break free.
Yeah. Hey, I did something. Are we still in the pre-show? You haven't done an intro yet. Can I talk about this now?
We're still in the pre-show.
Can I talk about the flea market?
I know. I was jealous.
Yes, please.
I didn't.
Sad
go out.
I couldn't make it. I forgot.
Actually,
sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it in the start of the show?
No. Because I got something else. But the flea market. I was so jealous because you sent a photo of something.
Pictures.
Yeah, of what you bought. I do want to get to that. But when I talked to Lindsay was like, "Wait, how early do we get up? Oh wait, and there's a time change right now. Honey, could we do this another time?" And I was like, "Okay."
You did that with the time change too. You got up so dang, Will.
But
that's dedication.
But
here's the thing.
Well. Oh, what?
It fixed the time change problem because I was like at 7:00 at night. I was just dead ass tired.
Oh, so
and I just went to sleep.
Went to sleep early.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
And then I'm normal.
Yeah. Well,
Back in it.
Lindsay was like, hey, how about this? How about, because it always happens on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, how about we just get a cheap hotel one night for like down in San
That's
Jose?
some next level thinking.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. See, that would be
Make
fun.
an outing of it.
Yeah, because usually we don't
That's
go to for people who don't know, San Jose is like over an hour drive from Oakland where we live.
It's less at this 5 o'clock in the morning. It turns out.
Well, I don't know. It's still pretty bad.
I mean,
still
there's
not
still
worth
distance
it.
to cover.
Yeah.
There's still distance to cover.
There's a bridge.
And it's San Jose, so sorry.
This is
we don't like to go
Saratoga.
down there.
This is
Either way, South
Man,
Bay.
look-
South Bay, not as cool as Oakland.
We gotta stop all the
East
hate.
Bay.
Okay?
East Bay,
the San
baby.
Francisco
Oh, boy.
people are like, oh, I don't want to drive across the bridge. I'm never going to go to Oakland or Marin.
Dude, but for real, those
Well, that's 'cause
tolls
they're
are like
scared of
$9 now.
It's really expensive.
Yeah.
Take Bart.
Either way, like there are some places down in the South Bay that we like to go to, like the keyboard shop. They just upgraded to a new bigger space, tiny keyboard
Keeps
shop.
Unlimited?
Now it's not Tiny Keyboard
Oh.
Shop anymore. I think it's still called Tiny Keyboard Shop, but yeah,
Man,
now
I'd love
now
to go
it's-
down there. That
Yeah,
sounds fun.
so really cool space, but I haven't, I never go down there.
just
Micro
hate them.
Center will soon be down there, so I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we'll
Oh,
go
we
down there
gotta
on a
go.
Saturday, stay in a hotel, and like hit all this stuff.
You should just
on
get a
the one
second
weekend.
apartment down there
No,
so that you can have an outpost.
No, I don't like that down there. Yeah, South Bay sucks.
So yeah, the flea market was this weekend. The Silicon Valley Electronics Flea Market, where
Looks like a banger.
I posted some pictures and then somebody responded, they should just call this the place where you sell all the crap that you stole from work 30 years ago. I was like,
Yeah, I saw
Probably not wrong.
a Sun Microsystems because friend of the show Steve Lynn had posted some. I thought
Yeah.
he had like a
so he posted an SGI. There was an SGI 02 that was kind of dented. I feel like I've seen this one before there, or they all crack in the same place. There was like an Atari 400. This is a Sun Microsystems machine.
Well, I showed this to Lindsay and she saw that old MacBook and she's like, "Oh, I want that one."
Yeah, the Tangerine Tangerine MacBook. There was a couple of Next machines. There was a couple of Spark stations. Some weird old word processors I've never seen before. A bunch of PVMs, professional
I know.
CRTs.
I know we have one down here, but I think it's only black and white.
Oh, so these were they had three that were.
How much were they
color,
selling it for?
400. So 300 for the non-component ones, 400 for the component ones.
That's actually
it was like market price. Yeah, pretty good.
But you got something better.
Well, so they had the classic Snap-on anal O-scope, which is a
Wait, what'd you say?
the anal
Wait,
O-scope.
what?
No, anal's it's short for analysis.
So would that
think
not
that
be
should
better
be
as
anal.
analoscope?
Analoscope? I don't know. It says anal O-scope. It's all I know on the side. It's a big red oscilloscope that you used to do timing on cars in like the 50s.
Is that what the seller said? Is
boy.
that how do you describe
Yeah, I am
it?
seeing the photo. It literally does say those three
It
words
says
like with
anal
a dash.
O-scope. Yeah.
And you bought it.
No, I didn't. I
Oh.
didn't. I looked at it. I thought about it. And I was like, I'm not ever going to use an anal. I go to the doctor for that when I need
Also,
that.
Ziv points out that for some reason that it's a really big O in
Huge
the
O.
middle. Yeah,
They knew
so-
what they were doing.
Yeah.
There was somebody that was in the category of stuff I stole from work a long time ago. Somebody had a bunch of 100mm boules, like uncut wafers.
Dude, I thought when I first saw this photo, I thought it was just a stack of like rewritable CDs, and I was like,
mean,
why is he posting that?
it
And then I
was-
was like, oh, that's one of the things that they cut,
cut the wafers out of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
it
like,
was-
people just sell that? How much was he selling that for?
I didn't even ask. I was looked at it. I was like, if I
okay.
come home with a giant piece of silicon, my wife is going to be so pissed.
I think you should put these photos on Discord so everyone
Oh,
I,
can see
yeah.
them.
I can just.
It's over on his Blue Sky right now.
Yeah, at the risk of linking, I'll send a link to Steve's Blue Sky post because it has links into my post and some other stuff
yeah,
too.
yeah. Good photos.
There were 3 people taking pictures of the anal O-scope when I took pictures of the anal O-scope, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and Liquid R said a tube of wafers. Well, they're not wafers yet.
Yeah, they're
It's just the
potential
tube,
wafers.
just the. But
Just
they
the
weren't.
tube.
But yeah, so they weren't cut. They didn't make
It's-
wafers out of them. It was literally
it's-
just
it's
the starting.
Like a 2 foot high stacks of silicon.
Friend of the show, Ian Cuttress over at Tech Potato has a good video where he showed one for like actual like desktop component size. Like the thing was, I feel like it was about this thick, and like I never knew how they made wafers, and they're like, yeah, it gets formed and then pulled by, at a certain rate over a certain amount of time to get like the certain right density, and I was just like, oh my,
It almost sounds like
crazy.
taffy pulling.
Probably, yeah. Like I was just like, I would love to see one of those in real life. That's crazy. I asked him if he.
It's some
if
kind
he-
of resin, isn't it, for the material? So that makes sense.
No. It's a silicon crystal that they grow huge. Like they just grow. They just keep lifting it out of the liquid as it's like molten forming or something. Look, magic
crazy.
and devilry is my understanding of how this works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Remember on the old Dignation podcast about 20 years ago, I think it was Kevin Rose, he described the processor as, okay, a bag of sand goes in a machine and it punches it and out pops the CPU on the other side.
yeah. I like that.
That's a great condensed
Actually, you know what?
version
Actually,
of it.
and the big one that Ian showed in his video is hanging kind of like a punching bag, so that makes sense.
There were a couple of real fun things. There was people often have like a box of like a free section. They'll have like, here's the crap from my garage that I want to get rid of. And you can add stuff to the free section or take stuff away from the free section. And that was like at one point we saw a guy who had just a whole bunch of like big 28-ounce tomato cans, like you'd get like tomato sauce for making pizza or something in.
Okay.
Open. People were going crazy for the cans.
Just empty cans.
Empty cans. People love cans. I don't know.
Actually, you know what? Lindsay, that's what Lindsay would have ran to. Yeah.
So I asked one of the guys who was looking at the cans. I was like, "Hey, why are you looking at those cans? Is there something good about them?" And
he's like, "Don't look at my cans."
He's like, I screw them into my pegboard, and then I put cables in them. And I was like, okay. This can suddenly.
Wait, do you think
the value went up?
Like, he screwed it in here?
Yeah,
or
in the
screwed it
bottom,
here?
I think. In the bottom, I think. Yeah,
interesting.
And but on an angle, maybe.
Huh.
There was a Mackie like 24 channel video, like audio mixer with labels that made me think it came from a TV station or something.
That's hilarious.
It was like $100.
Yeah.
What a deal.
Oh.
And I could have bought above Top Secret, the worldwide UFO cover up, 1999 banger.
No, see that is like a plant because the government was probably watching that book and they were like, hey, that man over there picked up the book. Tail him.
They put a lot of weird stuff. Like the trick is you got to have a bunch of normal stuff and then one really weird thing to draw people in. That's the secret.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then that's how you get on a government list.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm already on lists,
okay.
I'm sure.
Well,
so
great. Anyway, hello. We're here. Speaking of random junk, in the actual show, I have some random junk of my own that I'm excited to show off.
Do I have to blur this out?
No, this is good. This is good random junk. Nothing about probing scopes or anything like that. I'm not.
I was like, where are you
Not
going
like
with
Will
this?
over
Adam?
here.
On the topic of the
Yeah.
equipment that Will just mentioned.
Yeah. No, it'll be fun. So we should probably get going.
We should.
Brad is not here. In his stead is somebody with not a beard but a goatee. Mike Kreider. Hello, Mike Kreider.
A beard is technically a goatee, and it's the best I can do.
Wait,
so
is
apologies.
Is a beard a goatee or is a goatee a type of beard?
a goatee's a type of
right?
beard.
A goatee is a type
okay.
of beard. Yes.
I was about to say.
Spiritual
Rectangle square.
Yeah. Elena, would you rock the Mike Kreider goatee or the Brad?
I
full?
think once we finally start exploring the beard world for me, I'm gonna have to take some time to see what resonates for me. I
What you
can't
feeling?
say until I know.
Yeah.
You have to find your own beard.
It's not a one size fits all thing because this is literally the best I can do for beards. I've tried to get that glorious Will look. I just can't do it.
I never had connections until I was almost 35. Like the sides and the cheeks didn't connect for a really long time.
See, Mike Kreider, like I could see you rocking the beard that has the shave here on the
the chin strap?
No.
Oh,
So like the
chops.
big mutton chop. Yeah. So you get I could see you rocking that pretty good. But yeah.
Well, I do have an old timey pocket watch here that could go along with
Oh,
it.
we were just
Look.
talking about this.
I love pocket watches.
Elena, I told you you can get those. You can get an Obi-Wan Kenobi prequel beard from Etsy for like $200, made with real human hair. You just hook it around your ears, and there you are. You're ready to go.
Would
I
you?
mean,
would
a
you?
human hair beard wig for $200? That's not bad.
That's a pretty good
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Also-
don't ask where they get the hair though.
Well, no. Actually, I would want a little label on the inside saying exactly whose hair they took it from and like
You'd
the
like-
time. You know,
what is it,
like
from Portland?
Here's
and, yeah, if he was grazing on farm to
But here's
table
the thing.
grass.
I actually could probably just grow my own hair for my fake beard because I have a lot. Like my hair is actually quite long right now. So
There you go.
But like head hair and face hair are two different types. You know, you need.
But that's why it'd be
know.
hilarious.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm learning these
Okay,
things.
that is funny.
Don't stop her from this
This is
idea.
a great idea.
Will.
Just look. There's a great documentary called Beavis and Butthead where they took hair off their heads and then they glued it to their faces. It's a great. You just do that, you'll be great. Chicks dig beards, is my understanding.
All right, let's get started. What are we talking about here? I didn't do the intro.
It's hard to say.
This is week 3 of me not pre-writing the intro, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. You ready?
Hamster's
I
running.
bought a TV. Somebody asked in chat.
The TV.
I bought my childhood childhood TV that I played NES
Such a
on.
cool TV. Such a cool
Is
TV.
it like one of those little retro sets?
Dude, with like the wood
It has
paneling.
wood. It has wood.
Did it have built-in ears?
It had built-in antenna.
I'm so jealous.
But no bunny
How much?
ear.
To this.
$40, $30.
Ah!
I know.
Does it work?
So good.
Seems to. I don't have the.
Is it RF?
It doesn't have a RCA plug, so I had
It's
to
just
buy
RF.
an RF modulator and all those stuff to
classic.
connect to it. I'm gonna have to run whatever I run into it through a VCR. I think is the plan.
Well, actually, no. You should take it to your buddy who does the restorations of the tubes, because I bet.
That's
Wait,
Steve.
Will.
Yeah.
Oh,
do
is
you
that Steve?
need?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I might have an adapter somewhere still. I don't have a CRT anymore, so I can dig looking for it if you want it for you. That system.
Oh, if you have an RF modulator, so I have an
think
old
so.
VCR that can do it.
I
That you
think
like
so.
run the antenna in.
Yeah, I think I
out
have
of.
all that stuff still in a box somewhere.
But
speaking
My
of
hoarding
VCR,
tendencies
if we're
might
talking
actually
about
come into
I
your
love it.
benefit here.
Speaking
All
of
right, let me go
hoarding.
look for that.
Yeah. I have the modulator thing coming on Friday. I think
Nice.
it's shipped slow. I'm
I've
gonna
been,
plug the Mister into it.
I've been asking you play Fortnite on that TV.
No,
Why?
absolutely not.
Why?
I mean, if you try.
Why not?
I don't think it'll scale down to 480p. I don't think the UI will
Have you
scale.
tried?
No.
See?
See?
Don't knock it till you try.
You won't know
I mean,
until
you're,
you
you're the
try.
most.
Well, it would only be 30 hertz anyway, so what's the point?
No, the eye
Smooth
can't see
30.
past.
We talked about
24.
Smooth 30 on the show, Crider. It'll be fine.
Yeah, smooth 30. And think about that phosphor glow, man. It would look sick.
Yeah, and your skin that you have. What is it right
all
now?
of them.
I don't.
I
Yeah.
change constantly.
Don't the
Teenage
don't the
Mutant Ninja
children
Turtles.
like
Oh.
retro things right now?
My
Yeah,
daughter was
so hot.
I brought that in and expected to get bad reactions from both the wife and child, and both were excited. My daughter was like, "What is that?" And she was like, "Is that a television?"
Back in my day,
And I was like, "Yeah, it
and
is."
she's like, "Why is it so? Why has this got such an ass?"
Well, so I plugged it on. I plugged it in,
Beep.
and I was like, "Turn it on," and she was like, "How? There's no button." So it has a knob, the volume knob you turn
Yes.
to click, and it made a click, and she was like, "That is such a good sound."
Did the
And she's
static
like,
electricity
I was like,
start to like
Yeah. And then she turned the knobs to change the channel. She got to see the real static, the birth of the universe static, the
I love
remnants of the Big Bang static.
Love it.
It's very good.
Nice.
No analog broadcast anywhere now, though.
Love it.
Of course.
Very nice.
All right, here we go. Will, see ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. In this episode of The Full Nerd, what's the deal with tariffs? And AMD gave us all the goodies. And welcome everyone to episode 339. That is a lot of episodes of the Full Nerd Podcast. I have a new note written down here. Let me read this. Your home for the hottest nuanced takes about PC building news.
Nuanced.
Yeah,
takes.
no, the hottest nuanced takes about PC building news. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray. Today, I am joined by a fun crew. Not that Brad isn't fun, but Brad's not here, so I'm going to call this crew the fun crew. Elena Yee is on the line. Hello, Elena. Thanks for tuning in.
We're fun because we like rumors? Question mark.
Oh, there's no
I don't-
rumors
I
here.
don't
We
like
don't got
rumors.
any rumors here. This is all hard news.
What's the point of Brad not being here then? This is the time
true.
for us to run amok with rumors.
Well, hopefully the person who brought rumors is one Michael Kreider. Hello, Mike Kreider, back on the show.
Howdy. I don't have any rumors. I can just make some up for you if you want.
Oh, there you go.
That's how rumors work.
Yeah, that's how it works.
we go.
You're like, somebody told me. I can't
heard.
reveal my sources. Yeah, there you go. I love it. Glad to have you on. Glad to have you back, Mike. To my left here is one Will Smith. Hello, Will.
Hi, hello.
You
Ahoy,
have.
hoy.
Is that in the pre-show you were talking about how you just bought a new tube TV? Is that the only tube TV in your house now?
In my house, yes.
Okay, wait. Okay.
Wait, are we counting the garage as a separate part of your house?
I have a storage unit.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to talk about
I was
it.
thinking one of the old, super deluxe vans with a little bitty 13-inch TV up there.
So,
I like
the TV I bought is like a
Callback.
11 or 13-inch TV, and it would fit in a van perfectly.
Perfect. You know who I bet has a secret storage unit is one Willis Lai controlling the verticals and horizontals.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Rumor has it, but
Rumors.
who knows? Who knows?
Mike Kreider's hearing that Willis Lai has a secret storage unit that he doesn't tell anybody about, not even his family.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. That's where he keeps all of his Pokemon cards that are of extreme value, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably, right?
Yes, those were definitely the go-to back in my days.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
But you'll never know where it is.
Hey, yeah, you never know. Well, we do know where some hardware is. We have
all out.
the reviews of the RX 9070 and 9070 XT are out. We can talk about that. I have cards here on the table. The reviews of the Ryzen 9 9950 X3D is out. We have the CPU right here. We're going to talk about that. We're first going to talk about tariffs because I need Elena to help me understand what's going on with this tariff situation. But before we do get to that, I was actually over at Gordon's house yesterday. I have been trying to, I think I mentioned this last week, for his celebration of life that's coming up. I am putting together a museum of Gordon history. So one of the stops was to go over to his house and kind of start poking around in there. And there's a lot to look at. This is definitely a lot to look at. But a couple things I brought here.
It was all super well organized, I'm sure.
Oh my God. It was
Just
so
like
weird.
Wrapped, tagged, labeled, everything, right?
His
Wait.
desk here was like always so
Hold on.
dysfunctional. And then I go to his house and it just has labels and it's like perfectly organized.
It's like
It
at
was
the end of
so
Indiana
weird.
Jones, the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's
Yeah.
just like rows and rows.
It's crazy. Who would have thought, Elena?
I can't tell if you're joking or you're actually serious.
Oh,
Because I was
just no
Gordon.
way.
I could,
No way.
yeah. So
Are you
I was
kidding?
like, but here's the thing about Gordon, though. I will say, like, I think most people who are like this, they have their organizational systems, right? It's just that it's not apparent to anybody else. It's almost, I actually, in some ways, I respect it more because you're not performing for other people, right? When you, like, don't get me wrong, I'm on subreddits, like, what's it, organizational, like, beep, I can't say that word on this show, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Like, you've got these like beautifully uniform boxes with these beautifully uniform labels and all this other stuff, right? But that's performative for other people. Like, when you have your own system and you know that under these three piles are your CPUs, and in this box over here are your cables, and in that other box are your other cables, and that fourth box is maybe some dongles, you're not playing to anybody else. You are your own person.
That would assume that Gordon put things in boxes first.
Look,
You know,
You know what? Grocery bags are economical.
look, we all carry our trauma with us, and some of us display it in different ways.
well, Willis had asked me on the car ride over because we carpool, and he was like, "Oh, did his desk look like his desk at work?" And I was like, "Somehow way worse."
Because the thing is,
So-
I got a glimpse of how Gordon's desk was. This was also pre-pandemic time as well, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is Gordon.
But
This
here's-
is the Gordon.
But here's the thing, though. He always knew where stuff was.
Oh, he always
Yeah.
knew where it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, he had a system, right? It's not like people where they're like, wait a second,
No.
like, what pile is it in? It would be like, hey, Gordon, I need this. Do you have like an adapter for this? Or do you have this particular RAM? He's like, hold on a second. And he would know exactly where it was.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, and
He would
it's
go
all-
get it for you.
Always
and bring
was
it
like
over.
That. Yeah, always was like
But
that.
yeah, like when you have a shared space, like here at the office, when we have like hardware for builds and reviews and stuff, my thing was like, I'm glad it works for you, but I have no idea where it is. Is there a way that we can find somewhere in the middle? Anyway, going through his stuff, I was trying to find stuff for the museum, found some really cool stuff, and I was like, you know what? I got to bring this on the show. So one of the things that Dara, his wife, pointed out was that he was proud of this book. Called the
He has a quote. Yeah,
Scott Mueller's Upgrading and Repairing PCs 14th edition, and he has a quote up here. What is this called? A poll quote? No,
it's a
like a recommended.
no. There's a name for it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's on the cover here, and it says Scott Mueller's 14th edition keeps you current on the latest technology and remains the authoritative PC reference that you should have on your workbench. From Gordon Mong, senior editor of Maximum PC. So he was.
Yeah, that was in like 2007 or 2008. He was real excited when Scott asked for the quote.
Yeah, he was super excited. Dara was like, "Oh yeah, he loved this. We should put this in there." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. I've never read this." So I started thumbing through, and then I was like, "Oh." Here, sandwiched in the front page, is hardcore Gordon fans. This is a flyer for the premiere of one of the movies that Gordon was in called Monstered. So this was a world premiere flyer for June 7th, 2002. He is unfortunately not in the credits. Which
is he not?
Yeah, I scanned over it real quick. I mean, he was only in it for a hot second.
He has a line though.
Oh,
Does he have? Yeah. So I didn't.
Isn't that enough for an IMDb credit?
He has an IMDb page.
He does, but yeah, but this is once again, this is a flyer for the premiere.
Rick Popko
and he had put it in here.
This. Rick Popko was one of the editors at Max PC.
Right here,
yeah.
and Dan West.
I don't know Dan West.
Yeah. But. So yeah, no, I was a little bummed that his name wasn't in here, but he kept this. So this is also part of the museum that I want to have. But also when I whipped this out, Dara was like, "Oh, you know about this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, we know about this."
Lena's gone dark.
There we go.
She doesn't like them. Yeah.
Not only do we know about this, she was like, "Oh, that's funny because check this out."
Do you have a copy?
Sitting on the shelf. A brand new VHS copy of Monstered.
Yeah, we screened that at Maximum PC.
That.
Yeah, and I was like,
needs to digitize that.
Well, number one, like, oh man, I miss VHS. There is something nostalgic about it, but yeah, like this is a piece of Gordon history.
You have a working VHS player. You just admitted to it.
So it is on YouTube.
It's
but I was like, oh, this is great for the museum. We have the movie he was starring in. We can have that over there. We've got we're gonna have to figure out what this is called when they're you put a name on here. But
hold on, give me 2 seconds. When the tagline for Monster is really good. It's "Don't get caught with your pants down."
Yeah, because monster turd.
Yeah, it's about a zombie poo.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, it says out of the toilet and into your nightmares.
Face is exactly what's happening inside my head.
The late 90s,
and I heard Monstered, and I was like, okay, that's what it sounds like. Surely they'll elaborate this to give me some context. But no, that's exactly what it was.
No, that's exactly what
you got it.
Yeah.
Wait, back to the credit. Are you sure Gordon didn't use a stage name?
No,
at all. He
was credited as Gordon Mong.
No, I think it might have just been Gordon Ong.
Might have just been Gordon.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing it on here, so maybe my eyes are bad. But yeah, it's not on at least this flyer, and yeah. I mean, he's probably in the credits of the actual film. I have never watched it. I'm also reminded by friend of the show Ziv that VC Gesture actually tracked down a VHS copy, and he has one.
I think that they made the Monstered out of like foam. Like
the actual turd.
Foam. The actual monster suit was made out of like insulation foam that you get at Home Depot to like, they just put a guy in a suit and then covered him with a giant conical pile of insulation foam, spray insulation foam.
That makes sense. And
it's pretty good.
This episode, Raphael, we should call it the full turd.
Oh boy.
This is full turd. There we go.
Yeah.
Like it. So yeah, anyway.
Is that a reference to the next topic?
Oh, a blurb. That's called a blurb.
Oh, a blurb. There we go.
Yeah, you gotta blurb it.
So anyway, I found some really cool stuff. I'm excited. We are going to get photos and maybe even a little video of the museum. So don't worry. I definitely want to show some of the stuff off because it's fun. Obviously it's, really sucks because it's also just like, oh, I miss Gordon. But for me, I want to make sure that we preserve a lot of this stuff and I need help from some people who know stuff that I don't even know either. Cause he had systems in there under a lot of piles, and I was just like, okay, well, I don't even know if this is a system that's where this was from,
like what the story is.
Like what the story was. Obviously, Dara, she was just like, let's take this away and figure it out later.
Any Dream Machines in there?
So I don't know. I think so, but I don't know. I don't recognize them off offhand.
There was a yellow Corsair, like a yellow Corsair small form factor, the one with the handle, that big
Bumblebee.
That one was there, and that looked familiar to me. But that was after my time. I think it was when I was still getting the magazine at home, though.
That
Yeah.
was, I think that was my era at Maximum PC, if I remember right, around then. I think so. That was like 2014.
Yeah,
maybe
I'll send you a
2015.
photo. Like
Yeah.
I kind of took a quick photo. It was hard because there's a lot of stuff and it was buried. I might have to go back over again and like pull some of the stuff out and get actual
would.
photos of them.
Just because I'm pretty sure I heard him mention at least a couple of times that I think he kept a Dream Machine.
He's got to
maybe
have
2.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
just for
one. I know.
I
I know
have one
John
I can
has
bring in.
one.
Yeah,
Does
if
Josh have
people
one? Maybe.
weren't.
No, Nathan Edwards. I don't know about Josh. Nathan Edwards has one.
Oh, actually, I need to get Nathan on the list.
So for everyone who wasn't part of Maximum PC's era, Max PC used to do this yearly like big blowout, like best of the best type build, and they used to call it the Dream Machine. So that's what we're referencing here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely heard him say plenty of times though that he was like, "Oh man, I really wish I would have kept some of this old hardware from Maximum PC."
He also mentioned there was one of the Smooth Creations cases. I think he had them do like a special one in like that vintage beige, but like a way nicer version. I don't know if he kept that case, but if that's around, that would be a good one too because he really loved that one.
That would be
I did
one
not
that
see
he
a
kept.
beige one.
That was after me, I think, because I don't remember.
It was
that.
after you because it had to have been long enough for it to become nostalgic and not just old.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was still there when they were shipping. When I started, Compaq was still sending us beige cases to review.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Smooth Creations did some cool stuff.
I think they did this
Sometimes-
bomber one here.
They did Celt's paint
Yeah.
jobs back in the
Sometimes
day.
I think it
recall
would be
right.
kind of cool to do like a special case in his honor through them. Like if we,
Are they still around? Jinx.
I thought I don't know if they were. I haven't checked in a long time.
Yeah,
so
that would
maybe
be
they're
cool.
not.
Actually, that would be cool. Like a bigger bar better design. Or something. I mean, I still need to work on that shirt, but yeah. Anyway, lots of cool stuff. Once again, keeping Gordon's history alive. Anyway, let's get into the show because I know that he would be excited to talk about a lot of this kind of stuff. First up, though, we need to talk about tariffs. Number one, because I think this helps us lay the groundwork for pricing hardware that we've been talking about. But then number
that.
2, also Elena might need to pop out early. So
I do because there's a thing you'll be talking about that I'm trying to get done, a summary done for the website.
Yeah. So all right. So you, Elena, for those who don't know,
Yes, that's
have a really good article up on PCWorld.com. It's linked down in the description. Maybe somebody can throw it in the chat right now.
I got it.
Kind of talking about tariffs. So not only like what they are, but then also you talk to some people in the industry about how it's going to have an immediate impact on us. So please, like, walk us through this because I need some help.
Right. So this one was interesting to me, and one of the reasons I did the article is because I wasn't even sure of all the implications of it, because I know that some people had got, I think it was like Acer CEO who had said to expect like a 10% hit to laptops. But I know just from having talked to other people in the industry, and I'm sure you all know this as well, is that because of like how the supply chains work and how it goes from like vendor and there's distributors and all that stuff, I was like, okay, like, but how is it actually going to get spread out? And should consumers actually just expect to see flat 10, flat 20? Is it going to be more? Could it be less? So I reached out initially just to talk about that. And through the course of that, I learned some things, which is it's not going to affect just U.S. people or U.S. residents. It can affect people who are in other countries as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and like just a bunch of like small nuance things that I will get into in a sec. But I want to start from the top, which is just to get everyone on the same page. What are tariffs, right? So tariff, basically, just think of it as a tax. And this tax is applied when goods are either imported or exported from a country. For the ones that are affecting the U.S. right now, or the ones that we enacted, those are import tariffs, right? So if goods are coming to the United States, as soon as they enter the country, the tax is levied. I'm not great at pronouncing words.
Levied.
Levied, thank you. And so if the person who's importing wants to actually be able to unload and then distribute within the United States, they have to pay that that tariff. So essentially, if you want to do business, you have to pay the tariff.
So
Otherwise,
the company
it gets held by customs.
So like there's a company that has like a bunch of laptops. They want to get it into the U.S. so they can sell it. Once it gets here, they have to pay that tariff to get it off the boat.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if they have to pay it right at that time. Maybe they can pay it in advance. That part I didn't dig into as much.
Okay.
It's just due at that point.
Okay.
So it has to be paid.
Before you can bring it into the country, it has to be paid one way or the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So that was enacted. So then the timeline of this, it's a little wild, right? Because it's been very quick. So the beginning of February is when they announced the first intention to lay this tariff on imports from select countries, which were China, Canada, and Mexico. They were supposed to take effect on February 4th, like just 3 days notice, and then they pushed it for our neighboring countries, Canada and Mexico, but the Chinese ones went into effect. So that 10% already started a month and almost a half ago.
Oh, okay.
And then on February 27th, they announced again, the U.S. government, the executive branch of the U.S. government announced again that they were raising tariffs. So that was supposed to go to 25% for Canada and Mexico. And the last I checked, that was still delayed. They ended up delaying it. But for China, again, it went into effect on the prescribed date, which was just, again, 3 days later on March 4th. So now we're at 20%. And on
From
top
China.
of that, from China.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Chinese imports. And the one key difference between the ones that happened during the previous Trump administration and the ones that have been applied now is that the one previously was applied more selectively on different particular like materials or goods. Now it's just blanket. So it's just everything coming out of China has this 20% tariff that must be applied to it for it to enter the U.S. That's not the only part of it, though, because there also was a separate announcement saying that they want to apply a 25% tariff to semiconductors. And this is the stuff that's relevant
Is this on
to
top
tech.
of the 20%?
I don't know. Actually, that's a great question. I should get that clarified. But that was announced separately. So that could affect things not coming out of China. So like even if the fab is based in India or Taiwan or South Korea or Japan, then it will apply if that goes into effect.
So
Meaning the chips in the laptop then have that tariff because it's
Potentially,
in the laptop.
right?
So Elena, what if? So for example, I'm Power Color and I have assemble AMD GPUs in the United States, but I'm buying I'm assembling video cards in the United States, but I have to buy the chips from TSMC in Taiwan because that's the place where we make GPUs right now, right? So do they pay the tariffs on those GPUs when they come in, or do they get some sort of buy since they're assembling the cards here? Or is that a complicated question?
I'm not, by no means am I an expert on this, so I will put that caveat on there. But my understanding currently, from everything that I've looked into, have talked to people about so far, my impression is that it's anything that is coming from that. Like I don't know if you can necessarily, like if it's routed through another country, perhaps you could get around it.
Yeah.
But I think if it's manufactured there and you're importing it so that you can still use it here, it doesn't really matter if it's a finished good or like raw materials, right? Because they're applying it to like what I think Kreider, you wrote about this. It's like steel and aluminum. And like another material.
Yeah.
Steel and aluminum are the big ones that are going to affect directly things that are manufactured in the U.S. Car and automobiles, other big industry stuff is the big deal since, it's hard to ship something that's 6,000 pounds, however you do it. Sometimes you can, sometimes it's more economical to do it here. But if you're bringing in steel and aluminum, especially from Canada, it's going to make it more expensive. However you get it into people's hands, that price is going to go up.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically you just, the very TLDR version of this is that you should just expect prices to go up. And so to dig into that some more, when I was talking to the different vendors, they were saying that the final price that you can expect to see is going to be basically a combination of three factors, like how much of the product is manufactured in China, or potentially if the semiconductor thing goes into effect, then that as well. The relationships that the vendors have with their partners, because I heard from more than one source that they are talking with partners, and I think they're trying to figure out how much they can kind of spread the load across the whole like production line, so to speak, or the production chain for getting things into consumers' hands. And then on top of that, that's just like on the vendor side, that's the manufacturer side. And then on top of that, there's also the retailer's ability to absorb part of the tariffs. And from everything that I've heard, and then just also like Kreider wrote about Target and Best Buy having gone on record, like as soon as the tariffs were announced, saying that to expect higher prices. My guess is that because this was so sudden, and because it's 20% is quite sizable, especially if you're looking at a business's, overall like P&L, like forecast, that kind of stuff, then I don't think their businesses are going to really be able to absorb a lot of this. It's going to just go straight directly to the consumers. And I guess, if you're a business doing, B2B stuff, you'll also be absorbing those costs, but that's not the focus of our show. So unfortunately, I think a lot of people will probably come to this thinking, hey, businesses are making so much money. Why can't they just absorb some of this cost? Why are they sticking it to the little guy? And it's more that like, well, I have a quote from Falcon Northwest CEO Kel Reeves, who is probably in the chat today. One of the things he said to me that really stuck out as a quote was that, quote, like, this is just a chaotic environment to do business in. And it was a very neutral statement, how I read it, because it's true. Like when you have a tariff that's like tossed down from an governmental administration 3 days before it goes into effect, it doesn't really give businesses time to factor that into the cost of business. And, like they've had forecasts they already did for the year or the quarter or whatever. So to have to like redo all that, it takes time. And they also probably didn't plan for it, so they don't have a cushion that they could eat into, so that they're not scaring away their customers. Some knock-on effects from this is, from what I can tell from having talked to people inside the industry, is that they're anticipating a couple of things. So as a consumer, things that you should be aware of is that prices are going to go up, but also availability might start going down, because it's going to be very expensive for businesses to have excess stock, because if it doesn't sell, which is likely it won't do if prices have gone up, they're already seeing people start to back off of buying things. They're not going to hold on to that because they're afraid it won't sell, which then can make it even worse for us as consumers. This is my conjecture here, but I think that could mean we could get into even worse inflation on prices. Not in an economic term of inflation, but just like an increase in prices.
Yeah.
Because if demand is still at a certain point, but supply has gone down, then that means you might not even see it be at 20% over. It could be even more, because if there's just not enough of it and there's still enough demand, it can create basically like that horrible perfect storm that we've seen around GPUs in like the last, 7 years or so. But for different reasons. So it sounds kind of grim a little bit. We don't know for sure what's going to happen. That's the other thing, because of how chaotic it's all seeming. They don't know if they could get rolled back. They could go up. There was, I don't know if it was your article, Kreider, but in that semiconductor, I think it might have been Mark's, when that piece about semiconductor tariffs, potential ones, President Trump also stated an intention to continually hike the tariffs on the semiconductors in an effort to try to, I guess, protect or foster a semiconductor business in the United States. I will say that there's been other news, though, that there's the executive branch of the U.S. is also intending to gut the CHIPS Act, which is meant to help build out our ability, our fabs production and all that stuff here in the States. TSMC recently opened their fab over in Arizona, but they're already booked through 2027. Like that's how quickly they filled for capacity. So the TLDR of that is basically, given all that chaos, don't expect to see relief from that, even as like we're trying to ramp up semiconductor production in other places, both in the US and I think Lenovo recently just said that they intend to move some of the production over to India. When I talked to Silverstone, they said they are already producing a couple of their power supplies in Vietnam, and it sounded like they were going to produce more things in Vietnam as well. So vendors, businesses are trying to move away from pure China production just because of the economic effect on the tariffs are going to have on just being able to buy and sell products. But all that's really slow, right? Realistically, you cannot build these facilities quickly. We wouldn't see relief from this probably for another few years. I mean, and even then, we don't know what's going to happen with this economic policy being applied. In the meanwhile, U.S. residents for sure can expect to see the prices going up. In my article, I have a sample chart just to kind of give a quick, I'm not a numbers person in my head. I need to see it. And so to make it concrete, I did a little quick chart that shows original MSRP when we reviewed some when we reviewed some laptops last year, what it looked like if you put a flat 10% increase on it and what it looks like if you put a flat 20% increase on that. And really what it is, it's kind of sad because these tariffs are going to hit the people who are shopping budget the most, honestly, because, for example, the Lenovo Chromebook Duet, $400 at review time. A Crider did that review, if I remember right. If you put 10% on it, it goes up to $440, basically. If you put a 20% increase on it, it goes basically to $480. So that means if you're buying a $500 laptop, you're paying another $100 with a 20% additional tax on it. That's a sizable amount of your budget at that range. Whereas if you're buying a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon at $2,500, it goes up $500 to $3,000. And that is still a sizable chunk of money. But probably somebody who's shopping for a laptop in that range won't feel it quite as much, generally speaking, because they're not the people who are scrimping and saving to buy. Right. Whereas I could see somebody who in the $500 range would be. So that's what to expect in the U.S. If you're in Canada or another country that is getting your supply through the United States, you will also experience this as well. So if the companies you're buying through don't have an office close enough to you that they would ship the product through that, then you're also going to feel the effects of the tariffs as well. So this is actually more of an international problem than it being just, limited to a U.S. and other countries type trade war situation. I'll take a pause there because I know I've been going on for a while, but, feel free to chime in with questions, comments. I'm going to look at the chat now.
Well, I got some good questions. The first one, going back to you said some of these companies had told you that they're able to offset some of the manufacturing to other places that aren't tariffed. Do you know how easy it is for them to ramp up? Like, so you mentioned Silverstone producing some in India. Is that what you said?
No. So Silverstone right now is doing a couple of their power supplies in Vietnam. And
okay, yeah.
They said that they were intending to do more stuff there as well, but it would take a while. It takes some time.
Oh, so it's still taking.
That would happen.
They can't just call up, Vietnam and be like, hey, you know what, you were going to make X amount. Can you make double that now?
It's just the unfortunate reality of any production, right? So like you can see this in your own doing at home, right? You're used to producing a certain amount of food at a certain, right? But to like suddenly scale up for a gigantic dinner party takes a lot more effort, and it takes certain logistics that maybe you don't have in place for your system of flow in your kitchen, right?
So it's not as easy to say like
commercial kitchens.
Oh no, don't make it in China. Just let's make it over here. It's not that easy to.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's definitely not that simple. One key thing I forgot, and might be a question people have had already, is another thing that I was told, which we can all kind of predict, is that even if tariffs were immediately rescinded, you will not see prices come down immediately. It has to do with the fact that if stock was purchased at the tariffed price, they can't afford to take that hit to just discount it by 20% or however it would be at that time. or however much it would be at that time. And the other part too is that because the environment is so chaotic and it hasn't been done in kind of gradual steps, I think that businesses are going to be, they just sound much more like they have to be more conservative about how quickly the prices would return more to, quote, normal. So in general, you just might not see prices even return to normal for a while until things really clearly calm down.
Well, I talked to some folks a couple weeks ago now for a TechPod episode we did, and they said on background that like if they had to eat, like this was an AIB OEM, like not somebody huge, but somebody good size that you know the name. And they said basically if they had to eat a 20% tariff on products that were coming into their thing, it would bankrupt them, like in no short, like they would destroy their cash flow immediately because it would eat almost all of their margin. I was just say the thing about, like, there's some stuff that they can move offshore and move out of China. Foxconn can move out of China and stuff like that. But the things like the TSMC, like they're called advanced fabs, like TSMC 4 nanometer, Intel's 18A is coming online sometime this year. The kind of cutting edge fabs where they're coming up with new technologies and like making chips ever smaller. The spin up time on those is enormous. Like I think the average time to spin up an advanced fab is like 680 days or something worldwide.
It's more,
and it's more in the U.S. typically. It's like another half year in the U.S.
Years?
600 days would be 2 years and change, assuming they're working around
I can't
the clock.
math. Sorry.
No. Well, it depends. If they're only working 9 to 5 on weekdays, then yeah, that would be 3 years, 4 years almost. If they're doing, usually I think they work 7 days a week on those types of sites though. So
really,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, because there's the amount of money involved and the amount of as you see what happened when TSMC opened their doors and then immediately filled out 3 years worth of production.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's not like it's not, I guess my point is increasing tariffs on chips in a short time span doesn't make a lot of sense, because if they broke ground yesterday, we're still looking at 2 years best case before they can have the fab up and running.
Very best case.
Yeah.
Well,
And things always come up in construction. Like,
Yeah.
it just,
yeah, of course.
Well,
delays always happen.
and there's limited sites because they have to have good water and lots of cheap power and low seismic activity and all these things. And it's like, there's only so many places they can do it in the US.
Another question, did any of the companies you talked to mention like, hey, you know what, like we have a pipeline of products through, 2-3+ years of like, hey, you know what, we want to do this, we want to, make this, make that. Is that going to slow down like new products being introduced into the market too? Because, they're like, hey, you know what, we don't want to make new products right now because it's like, oh, could we even sell those?
That's a question I have on tap for another chat I'm about to have with another source.
Okay.
So this is actually a bit of a living, breathing article.
Oh, cool.
So I am planning to update as I get more information. I should have at least one more update for this week. And after I speak with that particular contact, hopefully I will have an answer for that one, because I am also curious about that as well.
Well, I mean, we had just booked our travel a little bit ago for Computex. We will be there covering stuff, and it does make me wonder, like, okay, a lot of companies, there's a lot of focus around CES. I think there was a lot of conjecture of like, companies are maybe trying to get some stuff out before that. But, now for Computex planning, does that mean a lot of companies are just going to be like, hey, you know what, we were going to release this thing at Computex, but, we're holding off for now. Like, so, it could be a really sleepy Computex because of that. I don't know.
I don't know. I will verify this, but I don't know if the tariffs necessarily immediately are affecting production speed. But I am curious more so, and this kind of ties into something else I wanted to bring up, is I'm kind of wondering now what we're supposed to expect around MSRPs. Because one of the things that when I was talking with Kelt over at Falcon Northwest, one of the things he mentioned was like, at this point, it just seems like MSRPs are going to become aspirational, right? Because if you have all this uncertainty around pricing, if it's going to go up 20%, if that you pull back on how much is released into the channel because you're worried about overstock and how costly that is for your business. You could just put a number and say like, yeah, this graphics card is supposed to be $500, but are we all now? I think now, do we just all expect to put another $400 mentally on that because of how things will work out? So I think it's going to make reviews actually a little bit more difficult for us when we're doing it, because you're going to have a bunch of people who now are going to be very angry if an MSRP is given at what they think of as an unrealistic price, which would be fair to say, given, whatever street conditions apply. But at the same time, you're going to have to still look at the product for what it's being angled as. And so I think as consumers, my advice is, when you read reviews now, really read the details, because you're going to have to really make the call for yourself now. Is this valuable to me? And if so, when does it stop becoming valuable at a certain, whatever price that is, right? So, we all do this when we're shopping. We think, okay, I would buy this car for this price, but not this price. I would buy this bag of flour at this price, but not this price. If I'm desperate, I will buy, this, ointment that I need for a bug bite at this price, even though it's like 4 times what I would normally want to pay for it. So you're going to have to start making those calculations very much for yourself and not listen to what someone is recommending to do per se. You can take it into account, but I strongly recommend, like, don't just read the headlines kind of thing. Don't just read the bullet points. Dig into it for yourself so you don't feel cheated. Right? If you take someone else's advice and go, wow, this really didn't give me the value I expected for the price I paid. Like, don't do that to yourself, I guess.
So it's
which
almost
is unfortunate.
It's almost like that's what we've been talking about for the past, month or so, to be like, yeah, it's hard for us to talk about the pricing, because the pricing we have
really hard.
No idea. So, yeah.
The other thing chat's talking about, especially in terms of the fab stuff, is that it's kind of nasty business, right? Like, it's not. We always see the pictures of the people in the bunny suits doing their stuff, but what you don't see are the big vats of cryogenic hydrofluoric acid that will leach the calcium from your bones if you let it get in contact with your skin. It's like, it's really nasty industrial chemicals used in these places, and it's both high skill labor and it's high risk labor. Like, you don't want. You don't want the guy that's over there hucking the wrench into the machine just to see what happens, messing around with the cryogenic hydrofluoric acid.
So I can't get that job?
No, you should not work like that.
Dang it.
And one of the bigger factors, if you're trying to move stuff out of China or Taiwan into some other country, I mean, obviously moving your materials into a new area is enormously expensive. You've got to have the facilities, and that takes time and money to get in there. But one of the things that's harder to quantify is the human expertise you need. If you've got somebody who's been building chips for 10 years in Taiwan and you want to move them somewhere else, that's enormously difficult for that person personally. It's hard to do it legally. It's a whole nother level of overhead to get that, either move the people you have somewhere else or train up the people that are already there to try and get going. I saw an estimate, I can't remember exactly what it was for, but they estimated that from putting a shovel in the ground to start building a new fab in America to ramp up to full production of whatever it is you're trying to make in terms of chips, 6 years. So it is enormously costly in terms of time and in money and just the personal hassle of it all. So add all that up together and it's a huge headache.
Yeah. Sorry, funny side note, friend of the show, Robert Lawrence, is talking about me sniffing the fumes. There's my job. I could be like the canary in the coal mine.
You don't.
Right?
You don't.
They send me into a fab.
All of a sudden my arm is bendy. What's happened?
Sounds like a good weekend to me.
Oh, my.
Oh, boy.
Sorry. No, that's a joke.
I don't think our
That's a
healthcare
joke.
is that
Hey,
good.
Yeah. No.
Elena, did you get a sense? I know in the car industry, there's a lot of talk about cars moving back and forth across, car parts moving back and forth across the border multiple times as part of the assembly and manufacturing process in some cases.
Really?
Yeah, so like car components the aluminum and steel will come from Canada to here, and then we'll forge them in something, and then that part will go back to Canada, and they'll add stuff onto that, and then it'll come back here again.
Ooh.
And like, does that adds up each time it crosses, right?
Probably.
So I would say yes, but that is me not speaking to someone who worked on this article. That is me just sitting in this chair talking to you on this podcast. From everything I was talking about with regards to tech, I mean, right now, everything is very centralized. Like most everything just happens in China.
And then we get a packaged good here.
And we get, for the tech gear that we're getting, a lot of this is not made in the United States. I mean, there are definitely components also that are coming to the United States for, products, air quotes, made in the USA, they're assembled in the USA or another country. And you will see rising prices on that as well, because, I mean, just think about something like, I don't know. This is probably actually still now manufactured in China too, but like baby monitors or things that you don't necessarily think of as tech, but has like a chip in it, some kind of semiconductor, some kind of electronics, some kind of electronics board in it. Yeah, even like your toothbrushes, probably, like you just said, right? So in general, I think the cost of things are going to go up. Not even just technology, but we're a technology podcast, so that's what I focused on because I wanted to know specifically how are laptops, how are other PCs being affected, because that's such a huge part of our site audience.
Yeah. So a question I have for Mike, because Mike, you do a lot of, well, I think maybe Elena, you do too, like deals articles on the website. Or you're involved with that stuff. What do we expect for deals, right? Like, do you think companies are just going to have less and less deals? So, we're going to get pinched on that end as well?
Well, it's always a bit of a moving target, because people will often ask me like, okay, I need a budget laptop. And that's an extremely unhelpful statement, because if your budget is $500, then hey, you're getting a $500 laptop, no matter what that looks like at the time. So yes, there's always going to be options at more or less every level. I'd say that very bottom is going to move up. It's going to be very, very difficult to find any kind of laptop for, I would estimate, under $300 within a few months. And everything's just going to shift higher. Like this morning, I wrote a deal for an Asus laptop that was $500. I said, hey, this is a good deal for Windows, OLED, 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's pretty good at $500. That's difficult to walk into a store and find. Best Buy has it right now. And we can see the metrics. People click on that. People are looking for that kind of value in a computer. And based on everything I understand, that's just going to be more difficult to find at whatever your level is. Everything's just going to shift higher. I don't know if it's going to be difficult to find in terms of volume at any particular range, but the sad final period to put on it is everything's just going to get more expensive.
So there will be deals, but the deals are off of already an inflated price.
So there's like two ways to look at it, right? Just to kind of paraphrase what Kreider just said, which is everything's going to get more expensive, or you can see it as at the same price points, you're going to get less for that same price.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to look for a $250 laptop, at that point, you're probably looking used. Like, I think shopping used has become much bigger for a little bit, again, because that's going to be an alternative method to get something more cheaply. But if everyone starts turning to that, then that also won't be as cheap as it used to be. So
we saw the exact same thing happen in the US. If you happen to be shopping for a car about 2 or 3 years ago, you saw suddenly the production ramp down because of the knock-on effects of COVID. It was impossible to find new cars that people wanted to buy. All of a sudden, the used car starts shooting up, and even a car that had $50,000-$60,000 was almost exactly, or sorry, 50,000-60,000 miles on it was almost exactly the same price as a brand new car of the same model. We're going to see similar effects for things like laptops, desktop monitors, anything that you need that you can't really put off buying if you absolutely have to have it. That demand is going to drive prices up everywhere.
Did you get? Oh, sorry, Elena. Go ahead.
No, you go first. Mine's a little bit aside.
I was gonna say, did you get into the de minimis stuff as well? Because they're threatening to close that loop as well. Which
so I didn't talk to the vendors about de minimis because they're not. So just to recap for people, so this is a I don't know if it's a law or an exemption to the law that basically says that if you are bringing in less than $800 worth of goods into the United States in a single, shipment or at one time, then you don't have to pay any customs dues on it. So it's exempt from that. So like, let's say that you're on a trip to Asia, South America, Europe, and you buy $600 worth of souvenirs. You can just walk through customs, just say that you have it, and you just walk through customs, and you don't have to pay anything for that. The moment you bring in $801 of goods or more into the US, then you have to pay duties on that.
Wait, this applies to like people like going over for tourism?
Yeah, you didn't know that.
I thought this was just like a business thing.
No, like it's like they give you a little form, like they used to at least.
Yeah.
I think now it's all digital. But they used to hand out those forms on the planes when you'd come back from an international trip, and you'd have to fill out like, I was here, I went there, this is what I bought, this is what it's worth. And a lot of it's on the honor system.
I mean, I just never fill this out.
Unless you're obviously bringing in like 4 suitcase worth of like, GPUs, it's not going to raise their flags. They're going to assume that, you have like some bottles of liquor and, you've got some clothing that you bought there. Okay, that seems legit. That's fine. Come on in.
I'm just sitting back here nodding my head. I'm like, Adam, did you not fill out the form?
No, who fills those out? Nobody fills those out.
Everybody should be
you have to fill those out. That's an important
Nobody
thing.
fills those out.
That from his memory.
The form or the lack thereof is why you sometimes see news stories about somebody getting caught with like 200 Intel chips underneath their clothes.
Well, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goods that you can just resell that you're supposed to pay duties on.
Well,
and as I understand it, like these rules are why you can buy things on like AliExpress or Temu for $5 for say an off-brand Lego set and get it shipped in from China for almost nothing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that one of the reasons that they don't track that, especially for smaller shipments, is because it's just a logistical nightmare trying to get things in. If you're buying one thing, shipping it in through USPS via transfer service, tracking all of that adds a huge amount of overhead at every step. So it's easier just to declare this is worth less than $500 or whatever. You don't have to pay the tax.
And the other thing is like UPS actually built a service around this, right? So UPS will, if you're a vendor in say Shenzhen, you want to ship stuff to the US through AliExpress, then you can bundle up a pallet full of stuff that gets shipped and brought into the country as one item. But as long as and then when it gets to Memphis or Vancouver, or Oakland or wherever, they bust open that package and a million other small packages just hatch like bugs.
God, this is like a spider egg. Oh my God.
And those those bypass, they have to all be under $800. You can't buy anything above $800 in that and use that shipment process. But that whole thing is designed to like hit the de minimis, avoid the de minimis caps, but also optimize your air freight for, UPS air freight size containers. So anyway.
And I believe it was immediately when they put on the initial round of tariffs at the beginning of February, USPS just paused everything coming in from China, every single package, because they didn't have clear direction on, hey, is de minimis still a thing? Do we have to charge extra for every single one of these packages that somebody ordered 2 weeks ago? What's going on? But I think eventually their resolution was, all right, just keep doing what you've been doing. We'll figure this out later. Which is another bit of uncertainty for all these people trying to sell things to end consumers. Do we have to charge extra for this? Are we going to lose money on this? What are we doing?
And it turns out you can't just pause shipping for other countries because that's a violation of the Treaty of Berne from 1870 something, 60 something. I can't remember.
Yep.
All right, Elena, listen.
Wait.
Oh, what? You got something else?
1874.
I did. Are you trying
please.
to? Are we wrapping up or?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask something, but yeah, go for it.
No, you go ahead, Ben.
Well, no, my question was going to be a wrap up, but yes. So.
Oh, okay. I would say just the last thing to just keep in mind too, not just for yourself, but people around you who use you for free tech support, is that this is going to add another wrinkle into the whole. Microsoft is effectively killing so many machines incompatible with Windows 10 and October. So I think starting to game plan now, if you think that you or someone else will need a new machine, I'm going to guess that you want to do that really ASAP, or come up with a way to make that hardware live in some other form, whether it's Chrome OS or Linux.
Your Linux.
Because-
This is what happened. This is how Linux takes over.
Will is jumping.
This is how, yeah.
Enjoy
So
right now.
it was as foretold, I guess.
Yeah, the prophecy's being fulfilled
because
right now.
The other thing I was told, and I mean, I run through all of this much more cohesively and in a more logical fashion in the article. But one thing I also mentioned in there is that when I asked how soon do we think we're going to see the prices shoot up, some are shooting up immediately because everything at the previous non-tariff price, the stock is gone. And so if the stock is still available, pre-tariff stock is still available, then that's going to cause a slighter delay in the start of the increase. So if you see something that's still closer to its old price, that probably won't last very long, because as soon as that part of the channel or that stock in the channel sells out and the new post-tariff stock starts filling the channel, that's when the prices will go up.
Yeah, I thought I saw.
Real quick. They think it is going to last at most till the end of the month.
Oh, okay.
We're already halfway
Like before
through.
stock
Just
runs
FYI.
out.
Well, because
If it hasn't already.
Yeah, I thought I saw articles of people being like, "Oh man, the first initial wave of 9070 XTs that were on the shelves were at this price," and then all of a sudden they're jacking up the prices for the next round. So that could be in relation to. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like maybe they brought in a small shipment beforehand that they could be closer to the MSRP. I've heard some conspiracy theories that they did this on purpose. I forget where I heard this, where they were purposely trying to trickle it out at, one price just to say that it was there, and then like the rest of it not. So regardless of what the actual reason is, just practically speaking, prices will go up. They are going to go up very soon if they haven't already. If you have a Windows 10 machine that is not compatible with Windows 11, start planning like right now how you're going to deal with that. If you're going to just have to save more money for a new machine, or if you're going to try to extend its life through the security patches to buy yourself some time, or if you're going to do Chrome OS Linux.
What?
The family tech support is a great thing to point out. Elena, thanks for that. Personally, because I've got both my parents recently retired and don't have access to their work machines anymore. They're going to need something soon. One of my elderly neighbors has been asking, "Hey, can you help me buy a laptop?" for the last few months. So I'm going to have to say, "Hey, let's go to Best Buy like really quickly, please."
Well, I mean, the good news is that now with all the other prices going up, we can charge 20% more for the free tech support, right?
You charge your family members?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he does.
Oh yeah,
For the
absolutely.
Well.
20% more.
What
Yeah.
what a great son.
Willis is like, that's an option?
Yes,
That never
I know,
happened to
right?
Somebody who has Asian parents. That's just part of the contract of being alive.
Exactly, right? Elena knows.
I don't have Asian parents, but I have a small circle of free tech support and a large circle of, hey, buy me lunch tech support.
So what I want to know is, like, for the buying advice, what happens, if I want to ride the wave and wait for, the next 4 years, hopefully the new administration will lower the tariffs and costs. Is that possible, essentially? Or buy now, really, before everything gets chaotic?
So I think, as people have been pointing out in chat, and we just from, you've probably seen it yourself, because I know you were car shopping for a while, prices kind of stay sticky after something like this, like some kind of event that causes them to go up. So unless there are other factors that come into play, that like the economy is booming and like wages have gone up, so it kind of covers some of those price increases in a way that doesn't feel as uncomfortable for us. I don't think you can pin your hopes on some kind of savior type legislation or executive order or something to completely undo the effects of this. I think we are going to have to just be prepared for things just costing more and just a lot of economic instability if you're a U.S. resident, because, I was listening to the news. They don't think a recession is imminent, but they also didn't say it's not a possibility. So who knows how this fiscal policy will end up shaking out for us. And honestly, when the U.S. is still big enough that if we go into a recession, the rest of the world is going to feel that effect too.
The story right now is on NPR is stocks sink again as Trump doubles down on tariffs, and the stock market has taken a real dive over the last 2 days.
Yeah,
so.
I've had friends who said
Anyway.
like I had to stop looking at my portfolio. It's giving me too much stress.
Don't.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a good time though if you're sitting on the ability to do it. You can buy cheap.
I thought you were going to say it's a
wanna
good time
buy.
for all those
This isn't
1080 Ti users.
Not a funding. Like, look, what if I just buy a bunch of crypto and gold, Elena? That's where I'm putting my money.
Yeah. No. Listen.
I think that's not a topic for this particular podcast.
Probably best.
Elena, listen. You've come in here. You've pooped all over my mood. Is there anything you can tell me?
It does feel like somber.
Yeah. Is there anything? Come on, give me
Somber
something. Give me
among us.
something to get me excited again. Elena, you got anything? No.
9070 seems really good.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Guess what? So
Only the XT though.
Hey, actually,
I mean, that ain't
well,
fine,
yeah.
I guess.
So I guess we'll move on. Thank you, Elena. This is enlightening,
Yeah.
if not a little depressing. But
A little depressing.
there's
but
still
at least
hardware.
We're more informed.
Yeah, we're more informed. There's hardware. We'll talk about it. Do you need to pop out right now, or do you need to? Can you stick around? What do you got going
I think I
on?
could stick around for maybe another 15 minutes or so, but I might just kind of like silently wave and disappear. I'll probably still be in the chat a little bit, but I do want to make sure I get the story that I need to file over to my editor.
Those stories don't write themselves, unless you use AI. But you're not using AI, so yeah.
No, that's verboten. And also, as a mark of pride, I would never.
Yeah.
Elena's writing is significantly better than the mean, so why would she revert to it?
Aw,
We got awesome writers at PCWorld.
Yeah. All right. Well, the RX 9070 XT and 9070 embargo lift. Not only that, they have went on sale. This happened all after last week's episode, so it's a little bit of late news. But I think there's some interesting stuff to get into. We did have some coverage in video form. We did. Brad had a review on the website because, unfortunately, he couldn't be here because I was curious to see his thoughts. There's a link in the description for the review if you want to read it or anything like that. I also wish he was here because on the last topic, I would have. And maybe we do this next week, but the last question I have that I think is something maybe a little bit more for him is like, okay, well, how do we as PCWorld then adapt to what you just told us about the whole tariff stuff? Like we kind of touch on a little bit how we cover stuff, but yeah, I think it'd be nice to give clarity on that end. But hey, at least for the 9070 XT, the 9070, I ran all the numbers like I've been doing. I gave all the information to Brad. He wrote up an article. He gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Gave it editor's choice, thumbs up. One of the videos that we shot that's live over on YouTube right now on the PCWorld channel is around ray tracing performance specifically. I did a bunch of just playing ray trace based games on a 7900 XTX for a couple days, and then when the 9070 XT came out, I went in and plopped it into my system just to see, okay, at the same exact settings, where does it stack? That was kind of fun testing. But generally, generally RDNA 4 rocks. Yeah, it seems to be good. The AMD really came out and wanted to focus on ray tracing performance. There's obviously the FSR 4 stuff, which has been pretty widely praised, especially like over at Digital Foundry. Have an awesome testing video over there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so so far, like thumbs up on the RDNA 4 stuff. Mike, you had to watch our videos and you wrote up some of your own articles. I say you have to watch our videos because literally you have to watch our videos. It's in your contract, I think. So I want to hear your take on not only this launch, but you haven't been on it a bit. So I'd love to hear your take on how this slots into the rest of the launches that have happened over the past couple months.
Well, with the proviso, but I am much more of a generalist news coverer. I'm not as expert in GPUs, CPUs as you guys. I think it's very clear that AMD is a better, bang for your buck pick this generation. I mean, that just seems completely obvious. Unless you want to spend 4 figures and up on a graphics card, you're going to get a better deal with AMD. That there's a lot of wiggle room with that, depending on where you can actually find and buy one. I had an editorial about that last week. It was inflammatory. But if you're looking at just the straight numbers and taking the prices for granted, that 9070T is definitely tempting me. I actually hunted for one on launch day with a mild commitment to buy one if I found one, and I didn't. But I was very tempted in a way that NVIDIA just hasn't for 2 generations for me now.
Yeah, and actually, you after all these launches, you have written an article about the when it sold out, right? I know there was a lot of talk beforehand. AMD was saying, "Hey, we've got a pretty good supply." There was a lot of talk of hey, these cards are actually been produced and sitting somewhere, so that there should be supply out there. Do you feel on your end, so for what you saw for your article, do you feel like there actually was more stock compared to the other NVIDIA launches?
Straight AMD versus NVIDIA, there did appear to be much more available stock to buy for AMD. Now, there's a big old asterisk on the end of that statement, because on both the AMD and NVIDIA side, it is statistically almost impossible for just a regular buyer to find any of these cards at what NVIDIA and AMD have declared to be the MSRP, the base price. There's a lot of different reasons for that. And the article that I wrote is called "Graphics Card Prices Are a Lie." And that might be a tiny bit of an overstatement, but I stand by it. It is almost impossible to find these cards at base prices for a lot of different reasons. One of the initial reasons is that when AMD and NVIDIA send these processors to their partners, their AIB partners, they say, look, sell this many at the price that we actually set it. And we're not privy to how many they get to sell at that price. And pretty much everything else they want to sell as the super duper Alpha Strike 3 version with the upgraded cooler and the slight overclock. And you did testing on, what was it, the Supreme version that had like the liquid cooler on top of the 5090?
For the 5090, yep. The MSI.
And you found, I think the very best case scenario for one of your games was a 5% boost for a $500 extra on top.
For the performance stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to be fair though, and this does get brought up a lot, like, oh well, this is the same 5090 over here. Why would I not want the cheaper one? There are reasons to get those. I mean, like having a 360 millimeter rad,
I would I would interject to just say that, like, honestly, I do think that sometimes it's a little short-sighted when people make that comment, not specifically you, Kreider, but like I'm just thinking of all the outrage ponies on the internet, as we like to say on the show, because if you're buying in that rage to begin with, you probably are the person. The equivalent would be like, you are just going to get the leather seats and like the fancy seat warmers, right? So it's a premium. And so for most people who are buying a Corolla, they're going to be like, well, why would you do all these extras? They don't seem necessary. But it's like, yeah, you're a Corolla buyer. You're not, buying a luxury car.
Wow.
Well, actually,
look, I drive a Corolla, man.
Burn on the Corolla.
Yeah. Well, this is the callback.
It's the same things you were talking about with the laptop. Like, the difference between a $3,000 laptop and a $2,500 laptop, in many cases, is a smaller difference than it is between a $500 and $600 laptop.
Yeah.
And I think even for someone who's PC gaming and has a considerable amount of disposable income to put into that, the difference between a $500 card and a $600 card is much more sizable. It's the difference that it was, 10 years ago between a $250 card and a $300 card.
Well, but I do think just boiling it down to performance at that is still pretty reductive, because actually I have talked to multiple vendors, so for our testing we had an XFX unit for both the 9070 and the 9070 XT, and then a Asus Tough, thank you. And the prices on these were different as well. And I have asked other manufacturers, like, okay, well, why are you making the card so big, so full of features? Why are you adding that extra premium on top of there? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people, like Elena pointed out, getting in the comments and being like, well, no, there's only a 2% increase in performance. So like, well, actually, there is a sizable difference when it comes to coolness and quietness.
For performance.
Yeah,
I've a form of performance.
I've heard plenty of vendors actually tell me, like, hey, listen, a lot of people, one of the main things they buy for is a quiet card. So like I actually didn't
look. I will buy. I'll spend $500 if I'm buying a $1,500 to $2,000 GPU. An extra $500 to get the one that doesn't sound like a jet engine is an easy sell for me.
Yeah. Well, but even on the lower end too, like somebody who's buying a $500 GPU might pony up for actually the $100 more expensive one. I mean, whatever prices, whatever it is, all fake. I get it, but would be look at two different things and be like, oh, okay, actually this one has has a bigger cooler, it's quieter. Actually, one of the features of the tough model here, Asus tells me about it actually comes with like a protective coating on the PCB, so a lot of people, just in case you don't actually open up your system and clean it, you don't have to worry about like the gunk gathering on it and affecting performance. Like there are other features. For sure.
But I thought, so Steve over at Gamers Nexus did a video about this weekend, or maybe yesterday, and had compared the MSRP, the AIB price over MSRP over a couple. I think he went back to the GOAT, the 1080 Ti, and looked at that, and like we're seeing a lot more of a gap between the AIB prices and the the TLDR of the video. You should go watch the video. It's a good video, but the TLDR is there's a much bigger delta between the MSRP and the actual price of AIB cards now than there was even 6-7 years ago.
But I mean, also like we pointed out on that, there was no black backplate on that Titan. Like there's definitely like things you're getting for that price.
They're putting more things in them, but I think we talked about this on the 5070 when we were comparing the 5070 to the 40 to the 9070. Like the 9070 they were big cards. They're like 3-slot beefy video cards, long, large cards with triple fan coolers and the whole deal. The 5070 is a small 2-slot card.
The Founders Edition.
The Founders Edition. And like I wonder if there's some psychological stuff happening where the AIBs are actually making intentionally bigger cards, to reduce the noise and increase the cooling, but also because people, when they spend $600 on something, want it to be the big one and not the little one. Like, are we Americaizing our video cards the same way we have our trucks?
Yeah. Well, and I actually have heard back from some vendors after we talked about that.
Yeah.
And, they're saying, well, actually, people are preferring cooler, quieter designs, and they actually fit in most cases. I mean, I'm a small form factor nerd, so I like small things, but anyway, these cards that we have here, the other thing that I saw people talk about was like DeBauer had a really good video of undervolting the 9070 XT and actually getting much more performance out of it. That overclocking wasn't doing much, but the actual undervolting was good. I haven't dug into that as much, unfortunately, but yeah, there's definitely good performance here. Is it surpassing the highest end of the previous gen stack, the 7900 XTX? It depends. Like in raster, sometimes no. Ray tracing, definitely yes. But yeah, it kind of depends. Like it does. Like I actually do think AMD has the right strategy of focusing on where the majority of people are buying, whether that's intentional or whether they, couldn't make things work at the high end. It does bum me out though that there is no higher end version, because I actually really do love the 9070 XT. Man, if there was a 9080 XT X, like that thing probably would have kicked some butt. And who knows, maybe they're probably not holding it up their sleeve. I'm taking them at face value, saying like this is probably the top end of the stack. But like I think it's a damn good card, and yeah, especially compared to Nvidia at whatever those prices are, like should definitely be looked at for sure.
Yeah.
And I saw videos, this is anecdotal stuff, but I saw some cool videos of like people waiting in line at Micro Center, and a lot of people were like, hey, you know what, I'm traditionally an Nvidia person, but I'm going AMD for this one. You talked about that a little bit, Mike. So yeah, I mean it's good stuff. There has been talk then of like, oh, okay, like, yay, AMD won. Does this mean down with NVIDIA? Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think NVIDIA is sweating about it.
They're going to be okay, guys.
Well, also like, oh, okay, hey, listen though, like NVIDIA still commands the high end. There's there's nothing up there.
There's no other high end.
Yeah, there's no other high end to compete with. So whatever, and hey, the the prices and all that kind of stuff are such in fluctuation that it kind of could be all negated anyway. But
I would assume that a big part of the availability for these brand new cards is that NVIDIA is not just for gamers anymore. The reason they are, mathematically the most valuable company in the world is because of the AI boom. They're selling all the chips they can to their industrial partners, and they love doing that because it's an easy way to make a lot of money if you're NVIDIA. Yeah. Apparently not for a lot of other people. But the simple fact is there's only so much production capacity. If NVIDIA is going to, and I don't have any proof of this either way, but if NVIDIA is going to favor one or the other, they're going to go with the safe money, the reliable relationships they have shipping out these cards to industrial partners, which opens up an opportunity for AMD to sell more to consumers, which I think would explain why they have a lot more if they're releasing cards at exactly the same time. Again, I can't prove that. I don't have a look at these companies' books, but that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, and if people are theory crafting, like, ooh, is this the end of NVIDIA for gaming?
Say what they should do?
No, I would never try to tell a multi-billion-dollar corporation what they should do. If you're trying to extrapolate, even best case scenario, say AMD just knocks it out of the park, and all of a sudden, for this generation, 50 series versus 90 series, however you I guess you call it. That AMD is just outselling NVIDIA 2-1, and it's just like
owning left and right.
Just owning left and right. That still takes time for any sort of like sea change to say like, okay, well, AMD maybe won this round, but you got to have years and years of like AMD just completely winning to be able to just like say like, oh wow, hey, not Tom Petty.
Running down the dream.
John Petty.
John Petty.
John Petty. I'm sorry. I was John Petty, the analyst who usually does his reports for GPU and CPU breakdowns and stuff like that.
Report.
Yeah, like I don't think even if best case scenario, his report of coming out saying like, hey, if total market share out there, AMD and NVIDIA are now 50-50, like that's still would be years away.
Well, like if AMD owns the next 4 years of GPU sales, they'll reach 50% market share.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Right? That takes time.
It's about an 80-20 split right now.
90-10 now.
Oh, dang.
That's also including laptops, which NVIDIA does have a stronghold there for sure. So,
that 90-10 split though also includes enterprise stuff though, yeah? Like it's just the whole...
No, I think he has a separate one for consumer. Yeah.
So this is for consumers.
I believe so. Yeah. That he has separate ones for consumer and for business. But yeah. So anyway, it's good though. Like that, this is good. And hey, we saw in December the 5080 B580. I'm sorry, from Intel is putting a nice squeeze at the low end. We kind of have this weird thing where NVIDIA owns the top end because there's nobody else playing up there anyway, so whatever. In the mid-range, AMD's coming hard. At the lowest end, I'm not going to say low end, but at the lowest end, Intel has a really competitive product. But even all that said, that takes time. That takes time to make a sea change, to have people erode that inroads that NVIDIA has. But either way, competition is good for sure.
Competition is great. I would interject real quick though that one of the things that I get a little confused about when people like mount up on their ponies and just ride off into the sunset, is that I feel like people kind of miss the forest for the trees, which is that, or in some ways almost reverse, because they get so caught up almost like looking at this as they would like sports ball. Right, where they're like, which team is winning? How much market share do they have? And they're looking at these like really big picture type things. And I mean, Intel has like, for audio listeners, I'm just holding my fingers with a very small amount of space between them. There's like Intel has like that much of the discrete GPU market right now, but its impact is so huge for that lower end. And I think people need to remember that at the end of the day, what really counts is, are you getting something that you feel is a good value for your money? Are you paying what you feel is a reasonable price for it? And does it do what you want it to do well? Because if all those boxes are ticked, then we should, and you guys can get together and do the thing, but we should. Thank you. We should still expect that the companies are going to provide something that will make us as consumers want to buy, right? We shouldn't just accept, as Gordon always used to like to say, very high prices, and this was an enterprise chip, so it doesn't really count. But like the $1,723 was a Broadwell chip, Broadwell E chip.
Yeah.
And because that's what happens when there's not push on companies to be more competitive with pricing. At the same time, though, I just think it's weird that people lose sight of the fact that, hey, are we getting what we really need and want as consumers? Great. Let's keep asking for that, and maybe not get so caught up in the sports analysis style look at the companies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and also to enact a major change too, like there's like multiple factors that need to happen, right? Like it's not just that AMD has to come out with or Intel has to come out with like a really good price to performance, card.
Yeah.
Like people also need to start, getting pissed at NVIDIA, not just buying NVIDIA, because that's what Gordon would always say is like, oh, you're gonna praise on it, or you're gonna crap all over NVIDIA, but you're still buying them.
It's like the hey, bring dedicated server. I'm boycotting modern Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 until they bring back dedicated servers.
Yeah.
Steam group, and then you open up that Steam group the day Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out, and every single person in there is playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah,
it doesn't work
because
you gotta not buy the thing.
I remember the last Computex that I went to with Gordon a couple years ago. Like he did this piece, and unfortunately we never finished it. But he had walked around in that electronics market, kind of, and we noticed something. We were like, wait, like all these places that have stock GPUs, like they would have like 2, maybe 3 Radeon cards, and they were always up in the back corner, gathering dust. And he went to each vendor and talked to like, hey, why is there so many NVIDIA cards? And they were just like, well, yeah, here everybody buys NVIDIA. Like nobody wants the AMD stuff. And they were like, it's so weird that all the US YouTubers are just like, yeah, the AMD's the best one, because guess what? Nobody buys it here, so they don't really care. So like once again, even if there is a good product, they also have to be sick of NVIDIA to then even consider something else. So I'm curious to see now that RDNA 4 is out, and if AMD is getting this really good traction with FSR4 and all this kind of stuff, if we go to Computex, like, will there actually be more AMD cards on the shelves? Will some of those people be like, hey, you know what? Like, we're actually starting to see like people
Will's
have more
already
interest.
shaking his head.
Yeah.
You should follow up on that investigation.
Yeah,
continuing that.
like, because I think that'll be telling too. Because it's one thing here, because we are US based and we cover that. But yeah, like it was very eye opening to go over to Taiwan and be like, oh well, no matter what we think of like, oh, the Radeons might be the best bang for your buck over there, they don't care.
I mean, that's always been the story. Like you go to Best Buy and it's like 50 million GeForce. Well, when you could buy video cards in a store,
yeah,
there were a bunch of GeForces and then like 2 weird Sapphire cards in the far corner.
Yeah.
Wait,
right.
Did Gordon ever get an answer as to why they don't? Like,
yeah,
not enough?
I mean, usually what they would say is just like brand recognition was a big one, right? Drivers, like all the same kind of tried and true stuff of just like, oh, people buy what they know, right? You buy because that's yeah.
But I do wonder too, like I think that in general, US consumers tend to be more fickle than other, like what I've seen from other countries. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't apply this universally. Like I haven't been to every country in the world. I don't know how they shop. But I will say, just from knowing what I know of a little bit of parts of the Far East Asian market, like there's just this also just, I think maybe also a slightly different cultural attitude towards like shopping, right?
Like brand
you're
loyalty?
not necessarily. like brand loyalty, or also like how much do you put into word of mouth, right? So if all your friends are telling you to get a certain thing, or they tell you that's the reliable one, are you really going to go against that? Do you really feel a need to? Like how much, I always wonder, like how much does, an individualist culture versus a group culture influence also like buying patterns and, essentially what looks like brand loyalty. And then also brand loyalty.
The peer pressure there is real.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I was politely dancing around that, but
Yeah.
I also like to have data when I want to back up things that I say. And I don't have that currently. Speaking of data, I haven't had a chance.
No, that's
I do love
data.
Star Trek.
Oh.
Are we British now? Anyway, I was curious how much outrage was there around availability for the 9070 cards? Was it? I mean, I know it was better, but I don't think it was that much better in terms of availability. And so I'm kind of curious how that shook out, because I was busy with writing stuff for the site.
I was surprised.
As somebody who was watching this as it happened, every single one of the new NVIDIA cards was completely sold out within an hour at every single price point.
Even the ones that were like a 30% markup in some cases.
Oh, yeah, all of those.
And even the ones that were widely panned.
Yeah, even those, every single one. I'm telling you, I sit here and I look at the news as it comes in. I log on at 9 a.m. Eastern, which is when most of these things go on sale online. Within 10 minutes, like 99% of them were gone. Within an hour, every single one was gone. For AMD, it was much less dramatic, but those base model MSRP cards, they were the ones that were gone instantly. And then within, and I would say a maximum of 2 hours, even the ones, and I calculated it, I put it into my calculator, even the ones that were 40% over that MSRP price for the super duper extra versions of these cards were gone within a few hours. So yeah, the availability issues are real, and it doesn't look like they're going to go anywhere, especially with all the knock-on effects of these tariffs creating a lot of uncertainty around the prices. We've seen from both retailers and from people like MSI, the sellers who are selling it directly off of their own websites, the prices for the second stock that come in go up immediately.
Yeah. Well, I did also, Elena, to your question, I did see a lot of people even angry at AMD, like, what the hell? Where's all the stock that you promised us? Why are prices all of a sudden not MSRP? I thought you weren't going to pull the same BS as NVIDIA. So I saw plenty of outrage ponies.
The thing in the TechPod Discord where a bunch of people...
TechPod, you say?
TechPod.content.town.
Oh.
In the TechPod Discord, there were a lot of people hunting for 9070s. And compared to the people that were hunting for 5080s and 5090s a few weeks ago, I saw people actually successfully purchasing them. I don't think anybody in the Discord that was looking for a 5090 out of the dozen or so people that were looking actually found one that they could buy on the launch day. So,
yeah.
Will, did they mention where they bought them from? Because I am kind of curious how the online versus brick and mortar experience is shaking out. I was listening to like a clip, a little bit of an episode of the Juan Show, like Linus's show, and they were talking about how maybe this is a reversal of everything, where now, like old school Battlestar Galactica, we're using like the landline type phones to communicate because that's the start smarter strategy.
So
or now the strategy is to go to a store to see if it's going to be easier for you to evade the bots and the scalpers and people who can use technology to buy things faster than you.
So there were a few people that got in line at Micro Center at like 6-7 o'clock in the morning and walked, and there were plenty of cards.
Dedication.
Well, I mean, 2 hours, right? Like, if you're going to wait in the line and it's not going to be 2 hours, why do you even bother?
6 o'clock in the morning.
I can't get on Space Mountain in 2 hours.
Actually, I'm surprised.
If you pay, you can.
Well, that's true.
That's new Disney.
Well, I just looked at our local chain, which is Central Computer.
Yep.
They came out and said like, oh, hey, you know what? We don't have 50 series stock. Don't ask us. We're not even having it in pre-built. Usually they like prioritize pre-built. They're just like, just don't worry about it. They actually did say they had some limited 9070 stock. I'm looking at their website right now. It doesn't look like any of them are available. But they do actually have 2 in store 5070 Ti's. Both
Right
are
now.
both are $1,000. So that's probably why.
Yeah, don't buy those.
But I'm actually I'm surprised they even have it in stock, to tell you the truth. So yeah.
So I was gonna say, now combining our first two topics, there's some weird calculus you have to do about how much you think the price is going to go up on the second as the tariffs start to impact versus the high markup that you're seeing on AIB cards right now, and you got to figure out where the lines cross to figure out when you buy, because the tariffs aren't going to raise double the cost of these cards, I guess is the thing I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah. Also, real quick, I need to clarify. Okay, now when I try to add it to cart, there's no button. So maybe that's a website error that they're not.
I saw somebody put
stock.
up on one of the PC gaming subreddits. They had charted out their attempts to buy a 5090, and it was, a tree over here. Here's all the ones I could manage to get into my cart. Here's all the ones I could manage to order. Here's the one that I finally got a confirmation my email was, and then 2 hours later it was canceled. So I think this person had tried 200 different attempts that they had charted out and had failed at the end of a week.
Doing some work there.
Maybe if they'd spent more time trying to buy the cards and less on the spreadsheet, they would have been successful. I'm just saying.
Ooh.
Wow.
I appreciate the effort.
Beef.
Either way,
Savage, Will.
Beef.
Well, I thought we were going to have podcast beef. What are you even doing, man?
I love podcast beef.
Wait, so I guess your question, Will, are you asking what the strategy is going forward for how to time your purchase of a card? Because I think we're still at a stage where you don't get that luxury. You buy it when it's available.
Yeah, I was going to say,
you just wait.
Your question.
You could just wait 6 months.
But if you wait 6 months, you're going to get tariff prices. It seems like...
Well, you're probably already going to get tariff prices now.
The tariff prices are going to be 20% more than what you're expecting, right?
I think those are already in effect.
And then...
I mean, but Will has a point, though, because the thing is that if tariffs discourage companies from producing large amounts of anything, and I don't think that's the case with the graphics cards right now, because demand is still high enough that they probably could just ramp up production and it will still be meeting demand. But there is that potential where if they find it too costly, it could also slow how these cards come out. And then that's just because the supply is so low, it could drive up what, retailers are offering it for.
Well, I mean, the other thing is also possible, right? If we see a general slowing of the whole economy because core necessities get more expensive, like food and clothing and water and electricity and all that, then maybe demand on this stuff goes down and we see less competition.
I don't less competition in the sense of
less people competing for the same, so less demand for the same supply. I don't know.
Can we use the pandemic as potentially something to forecast that? Because I think we kind of saw a little bit of as the pandemic slowed and people started going out and they didn't buy the cards, they didn't need to. I don't remember there being huge price crashing either.
No, but there was,
Yeah, I don't think the prices really just suddenly, it's not like before the pandemic, we saw that. We would get these credible fire sales on, previous or 2 gens back, but that has not applied since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Also, surprisingly, it looks like there is a 5090 stock at Micro Centers. Says I can pick one up in 18 minutes, depending on where my store is.
In-store pickup only.
Oh, no.
That's usually how it works.
Actually, you know what? Never mind. They're all marked out of stock. Yeah. It's we're talking about in-store stuff, but no, never mind.
Yep.
You have to go to Houston?
You use Micro Center.
No, yeah. So, yeah.
So I think, Will, to your idea of trying to forecast this, if you're looking for a purchase for yourself, right now we're at a point where they're going to sell every single one of these cards that they can make. Is that still going to be the case in 3, 4, 5 months? And how are the prices going to be affected by tariffs if you're buying in the US or a market that is affected by those US tariffs? That's a really hard question to answer. And it factors into each person. How much are you willing to pay for this? How much is it worth to you? Do you think you will have that disposable income for PC gaming 5-6 months from now?
Yeah.
Well,
who knows?
But it doesn't make sense to buy a $900 9070 XT right now.
I mean, it could. If you're using it actually for work, and you're like, hey, you know what? I could make.
But that's a different situation.
Yeah.
That's that's starting to border beyond consumer.
I mean, but some people like that. They're like, oh, hey, you know what? I can offset costs by making money other way. So
Well, Well, for sure. I'm not saying that it's not a valid use case. I think, though, for what Kreider just said in terms of making that calculus, that's not the same as somebody who's really buying it as a discretionary purchase.
Yeah.
And purely, right? Because think about it. If you suddenly become worried that your job could be at risk or that the economy might start, we could go into a recession that would cause layoffs, like you're probably starting to start thinking more about, can I put this $900 towards my emergency fund?
Yeah.
You're not going to suddenly just put it in there and go, okay, well, YOLO, like, let's see hopefully this works out for me.
Well, and I think that's what happened during the pandemic is everybody was tightening belts and buying toilet paper and beans and not,
and just continuing to cozy up to their 1080 Ti's.
That's why it's the code.
Yeah.
It carried us through the pandemic.
I mean, there was a lot of shortages on parts, though, for select parts in the pandemic because everyone was suddenly, like, PC gaming, like, took off because you couldn't go out. You couldn't hang out with your friends. What are you going to do? You're going to hop on a game console or you're going to hop onto a PC and at least, hear human voices through that. That's how I got through the pandemic. A lot of Zoom calls and a lot of gaming sessions.
Power supplies and webcams both got real expensive during the pandemic.
I sold a 10-year-old webcam for way more than it was worth during the pandemic because somebody needed a webcam. And I didn't even price it that high. It was just still like twice what it was worth at that point.
Man, I don't know about admitting to like extorting people in need.
It was not
our
extortion.
Time of
I
crisis.
saw other people selling it for like $100, and I was like, "That's ridiculous.
Wow.
This thing is worth like $20. I will sell it for like $35."
Scalping your old Logitech 910 Web 922 webcam.
It was a Logitech 9000.
Wow. I of all the people here,
funny.
I'm so disappointed, Elena.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, these cards are good. The other thing, FSR4, I touched on a little bit.
FSR4?
I was very curious to hear about people's reaction to FSR4 and if the fact that it was locked to RDNA 4, if that was going to like make people angry. Like, why can't I get FSR4
I bet
on
it
my...
did.
Not as much as I expected, to tell you the truth. Like, people were like, I saw more excitement because like all the analysis, like I said, from like folks over at Digital Foundry are like, hey, this is awesome. You know what? And like I'm it seems like people are like understanding the trade-off of like, hey, you know what? To make something that awesome, we have to lock it behind, the technology that allows for that. And so, yeah, because right now FSR has always been such an open platform that anybody can use it, and that is a good thing. But to be able to get the benefit of this newer machine learning upsampling that rivals DLSS 4 in a lot of ways, then it's like, dang, okay. Then it seems to be that people are accepting that, like, hey, you know what, that's what we need to do, even though people weren't accepting on the NVIDIA side. But whatever.
I feel like that was also the openness of that in XeSS1 was a side effect of the relative market share of AMD and NVIDIA and AMD and Intel versus NVIDIA, because those technologies need developer support. They had to have some sort of hook to get people to spend time implementing them.
Yeah. Because
otherwise you're not going to spend time building in a new feature. Something that costs a game developer money is not going to be implemented for 8% of the enthusiast gaming market, right? Or 10% of the enthusiast gaming market.
Yeah. Well, and also some of the other stuff that has come out since then too, Digital Foundry on their latest episode of their podcast talked about how Sony, I guess Mark Cerny over at Sony has talked about being able to meld and work together with their PSSR, and have FSR4 maybe come to the PlayStation 5 Pro in some form or fashion, because I guess the Int8 machine learning that is what helps that. I guess is there on the PS5 Pro. So maybe there's ways to backport it, but I know I've talked with you offline a lot about this. I have theorized that I actually do think a lot of what they were doing with FSR4, and even like I finally got in that Strix Halo gaming tablet, like what they're doing on the Strix Halo side, and the fact that RDNA 4 in these GPUs is monolithic, not disaggregated chip design. A lot of this is laying the groundwork for console stuff, which I know we don't want to talk about and get into here. But
you can do your taxes on them. They're personal computers now. Is
exactly.
My
Yeah. Just don't tell Gordon.
On that note, I do have to slip off. I
Oh, you got to go
past
do
my
your
time.
taxes
See you
on a
later.
console? All right.
Yeah,
Go do your
exactly.
Xbox
tax deadline's coming up. But
oh, no.
yeah,
No
I will
Linux on
probably
that
be hanging out
PS2.
in chat. I will see you all soon.
Thanks, Elena.
Have fun
Bye,
being
Elena.
the
Thanks.
sole face on the screen, Carter.
Thanks, Elena.
Thanks, Elena.
Hey, we'll see you next week. So I actually do feel like a lot of this work and a lot of the reason why RDNA 4 is kicking butt, not only on the hardware side but the software side, is laying the groundwork for whatever the new consoles are. Oh, that's funny. Like, they're focusing on ray tracing performance now. Oh, well, what are one of the things that the consoles lack is really good ray tracing performance. Okay. What about upscaling technology? Oh, Sony came out with their own thing. I'm sure AMD was like, what the hell? We got something. They're like, well, yeah, it's not good. And they're like, well, we made something good now.
I don't know, dog. What's upscale with you?
What?
Upscaling technology.
Oh, up dog?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I actually do think this probably bodes well for whatever next generation console kind of stuff is, and we're getting the knockoff effect of that, which is good.
Knockoff effect is something else, I think.
Yeah, the knock on effect,
Yeah.
knock off, whatever. Yeah. Hey, anyway.
Well, I'd say a reason to be excited for almost anything improving for at least this generation of consoles is that it will spur development for the handhelds that you like so much. Like the AMD APU systems, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ones that are built custom for both the current Xbox and PlayStation are not too dissimilar to what's going into the Steam Deck and a lot of the same systems over there. So any development that AMD does in partnership with the Xbox and PlayStation teams can at least theoretically help out the next generation of handheld gaming PCs. Guess?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, RDNA 4 is laying the groundwork for all of that. Like we're seeing the new gestation in these cards, but I feel like when RDNA 4 trickles, across the whole stack, talk about from handhelds all the way, to consoles to more GPUs. It'll take time. It'll take time to get there. Like RDNA 3.5 definitely has a lot of advantages on the lower end, efficiency and things like that. But yeah, RDNA 4 is rocks.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Yeah, the FSR 4 stuff.
Like that would help those handhelds so much. Decent upscaling.
Right. I mean, I use upscaling on my handhelds all the time, and so yeah, having access to a better version of that, hell yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about. I actually on launch day I put out a video about how FSR 4, how to enable it, because I do think it is confusing, and a lot of people have been like, well, it's the same as the NVIDIA approach. Why do you blast? You praise that one, but blast that one. And I'd actually say no. I actually don't like the NVIDIA approach either. I like to have options in the game itself. So however
Adam.
I know. Yeah, like I don't want to have to go out to a driver. If this is the future where you have DLSS 5 and FSR 5, everything is just handled in the driver. Like, I don't like that either. Like, I don't think this is the way we should be going. We should not have to go out to a driver to enable anything. Also, at the same end, I will say the NVIDIA one is different than the FSR 4 one because, like, if say you have a game right now that supports 2 times frame gen, and you want to go to the driver to enable 3 or 4 times frame gen. That's different. You're still having a toggle in the game. You're just going out and adding something on top of it.
I think that's the same.
FSR 4 right now, you can't use it at all.
Oh, no, I understand that.
So like FSR 4 is like, no, you have to go into the driver to. It's not even just like an added benefit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it's good. Either way, I don't want to go out to a driver to enable anything. But either way, the right now the NVIDIA one is like adding on top of some stuff that's in the game to augment it. The AMD one, you literally can't get FSR 4 until you go into the driver. So it's a little different, but they still both suck.
The reason the driver override thing works is because the previous versions of the plugins provided the information from the game that they need to run, right?
Yeah.
So like all the vectors, the motion vectors and the stuff that they get in order to make frame gen and DLSS and FSR work is there. I feel like and also the separation between like UI, which shouldn't be rescaled, and game engine stuff that should be rescaled. That's the other big thing that separates out. I feel like anytime you have to access the driver control panel for this kind of stuff, you've probably messed up. This whole thing on both NVIDIA and AMD's side feels to me like, hey, we've got these cards coming out and we don't have the support. Like, we don't have enough games on board with native support. In NVIDIA's case, it was like 7, and in AMD's case, it was like 3 or 2 or 1 or something. Like, it feels like they had to do something to get a big number, and they came up with this kind of driver override thing. And I hope that this is just a short-term thing, and
I
it's
hope
not
so
the
too.
way going forward.
Yeah, I don't want this to like be some sort of grim future where it's like, oh, in the future, oh, devs don't have to worry about implementing it in the game at all. Like, don't worry about it. We'll handle it in the driver. Like, yeah, yeah.
To VC Gesture's point, this is also the way you used to have to do everything in the bad old days. That was not a good thing back then. VC Gesture.
Back in my day, we did So I don't know. I like, and there was definitely comments of being like, "What are you, an idiot? All you got to do is go in there." And it's like, no, that's not the point. Like, yes, I know how to do it. I literally did a video of like showing people how to do it.
Yeah.
The point is, when I want to sit down to play games, I want to be able to just do everything in the game, turn on the settings, configure it the way I like, and then just play the game. I don't have to be like, oh, do I double check? Is it enabled? Let me go over to the driver.
Have you considered just getting a console?
Yeah, maybe,
that's
maybe.
what I was going to ask. I mean, they have these things called consoles that do pretty much all of this for you, man.
Noob.
Yeah. Well, no, I love PC gaming. I'm not willing to do that. I just, yeah.
I mean, we have. The weird thing to me is that their auto configuration stuff, like the GeForce, it used to be GeForce Experience, but the NVIDIA app settings optimizer thing, and the same idea for that in the Adrenaline software, neither of them seem to flip this stuff on by default from what I saw in my limited testing.
Well, I've always heard that defaults matter, right?
Defaults are the most important thing in computers, it turns out.
So like. And that's definitely the point where, in who is it? Ruro? I don't know how to say it. Sorry.
Oh,
maybe AMD should enable FSR4 by default to make him happy. I mean,
if that's the big advantage of this generation of cards, then yes, that is absolutely what they should do.
Yeah, but the thing is like when you install the driver, right, or update whether you're installing fresh or updating, you go through that thing. And you're like, oh, hey, do I want to tune it for HyperRX? Do I want to tune it for performance? Do I want to tune it for beautiful visuals? The option that literally says default is the one that turns off all this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, yeah. So I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. It maybe confusing isn't the right word.
But the defaults, the reason we say, just to be clear, the reason we say defaults matter, it's what we've always said here at PCWorld is that defaults matter. It's because when Microsoft did user research on this 20 years ago, some insane number of people, like 90% of people, never changed the default settings on anything. So that means all of the settings that we're doing, that we're getting into our games, people don't look at those graphics panels. People don't look at the driver settings. Most people don't update their drivers until one of their games pops up and says, yo, you're using a driver from 2017. It's time to update. And like that's an enormous chunk of the even the niche PC gaming enthusiast market. 90% of that market is going to follow this basic rule of I turn on the computer and then don't think about it for anything that Windows doesn't update automatically. My driver tools don't update automatically. My games don't update automatically. That's why Steam tried to do a driver update in Steam for years before the video card vendors got annoyed with them and told them to cut it out.
Yeah. Also, Retro Sean points off real quick, to be fair, this is how you turn on AF/MF, an anti-lag, things like that. Those are extra features. It's not literally FSR 4.0. The only way to get FSR 4.0 is to go into the driver and turn it on. This is not an extra feature thing. This is literally the next generation of something, and it's only available in the driver.
And Will, as true as it is that 90% of people, even among obsessive PC gamers, are not going to change the defaults, the people who do truly care about this are the ones who are buying the super high-end card the day that it comes out in a new generation. This is what they want. And putting any extra friction in that process for them is going to create frustration.
Yeah. Well, And also, just conceptually, I think that the other 90% of people should get the good experience too, right? Like they should be putting their best foot forward. Because if I have a 7800 XT and I buy a 90. I'm having a hard time with the product numbers. A 9070 XT, and I don't turn on the FS4 or FSR4 stuff. There's not a huge performance delta there. You're not getting a whole lot new. It's not a good look.
I also watched a video over the weekend. Man, I'm sorry. I guess I can look it up. It was on YouTube, and it was called like "You're using G-Sync wrong." Something I can't remember the name of the channel. Really good video, actually. I should try to find it. But the TLDR was like, oh, you know what? You need to turn on VSync in the driver, not in the game, to get the lowest input. You need to manually refresh manually put the frame cap limit 3 frames underneath the highest refresh rate of your thing. Like, there was all these like recommendations of how to use G-Sync properly, and I was like, I've been using it wrong then.
And it's all like Nintendo uncle business from the playground when we were kids. Like, man, if you go on Earthbound and you go up and down and then left and right, then it's some weird stuff's going to happen.
Okay, I found it. To be fair, this person is talking about G-Sync in a very competitive capacity to like get the lowest latency possible. I'm not a competitive person. I don't care, but I like, we have these new G-Sync monitors, and I was like, wait, am I even using this right?
You're not. You're using it wrong.
So I was like, oh, okay. And even then I went in the comments, and some people were actually arguing like, no, actually you should turn on VSync in the game, not the driver. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, just tell me what I should do.
So, I mean, this happens a lot. Like, there's a lot of places where the defaults are bad. HDR is another place that the defaults are bad on Windows. And a lot of people who make games understand how HDR works. So they know that the thing you're supposed to do is set your panel up, you look at the maximum brightness nits, and then you download that Windows HDR calibration app, and you run that on the monitor, and you calibrate your monitor for the brightness that you have it set at, and then the game theoretically should just work, because you shouldn't have to calibrate it inside the game. Now, some games put a calibration tool in, some don't. And I responded to a thread last week on social media where somebody was like, hey, why are all my games really dark? And I said, hey, are you on an HDR monitor? And they said, yeah. And I said, have you run the HDR calibration tool? And they'd never heard of it before. And like, this is the experience. This is why when people say, oh yeah, I have an HDR monitor on Windows, but it sucks. This is why this is bad, is because we're bad as an industry. We are bad at helping people get to the right defaults. So
anyway, that's fine by me. It keeps a roof over my head.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go.
I mean, and I'm not asking for our PCs to be consoles. No, I don't want to just go buy a console.
I would like that. I think that sounds great. Make it easy and good.
But there should be ways to make this easier.
Yeah,
for sure.
They have tools. They have programs. NVIDIA and AMD and Intel all have programs that run on your computer with your graphics card that should be doing this work for you, so that you get good defaults for the hardware in your machine. Anyway,
Anyway, FSR4 is good.
Yeah,
like I'm also like, man, make it easier for people to enable, because should be
it's good
because it's that good. Like you definitely need to check it out. So, and also like hearing the Digital Foundry guys talk, the thing I'm understanding is that it's the integer 8 math calculations that is enabling the machine learning. So it's different than the tensor core stuff. You know, like, so yes, it's dedicated hardware in there that is helping accelerate it, but the dedicated hardware is around integer 8, not
the generic tensor core.
Yeah, okay. So it's a little bit different approach from what I understand. I'm not an expert on that stuff, but yeah, it also sounds like that's why they're looking into backporting. Like, it sounds like the PlayStation 5 Pro has enough integer 8 calculations to be able to make it work potentially, but something like your 7900 XTX, might lack on it. So, interesting stuff. I am not a GPU expert. Yes, I am like taking over the benchmarking numbers, but that's why I'm like, hey,
it's
Brad, Will, I'm going to give you my numbers. What do these mean to a certain degree? and all that fun stuff. But it was fun to test it, and that's why I've also been focusing on, hey, you know what? We run the benchmarks, we run those numbers, but I just want to throw it into my system and just play it and just see how it feels to play. And for ray tracing too, because I'm a big bells and whistles guy, the ray tracing stuff on this is like, depending on the game, depending on the setting.
Yep.
I did run into VRAM limitations on these cards because these do have less VRAM than the 7900 XTX. So like I ran into situations where the VRAM was actually a limiting factor, not the ray tracing performance. But when it just comes down to pure ray tracing performance, it is like just as good as NVIDIA for performance stuff at that stack. I mean, pricing, whatever, like, but
for what it's worth, when you get all this stuff set up, it's an immediately recognizable difference. Like when my wife saw, she came in and I was like, hey, check this out. And she watched me play Spider-Man with HDR turned on and all the 240 hertz running on the 240 hertz OLED panel. She was like, wow, what is this? What on earth? What's happening? Why does this look so good?
Yeah.
And like, I think of all the things, like all of the new technologies that have come to displays, the high refresh rate and the HDR and all that stuff that's happened over the last 10 years, I think the HDR has an enormous impact on how things look in games, right? I think it is a transformational technology. When you walk in and see the first HDR OLED or a good background dimming LCD, it looks incredible compared to standard bit depth color gamut TV. But it takes so much work to make it right now that it's holding the whole thing back. It's holding it back for everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we need to move on because I just realized we've been going for 2 hours now.
We have a whole other topic.
Yeah. So anyway, GPUs, good. CPUs, there had to be, in this whole gamut of GPU launches over the next couple months, all of a sudden a CPU launched. Unfortunately,
2 CPUs launched.
You're right. I only have one in my possession. The Ryzen 9 9950 X3D was sent out by AMD. The 9900 X3D was not, so I do not have one of those in my
12
possession.
versus 16 core versions.
Yeah, they will go on sale tomorrow. And listen, it has been an onslaught of testing. I wanted to do more testing. I did not get a ton of testing. We actually don't have a video up right now of the testing we did. Elena worked with me to have those numbers. She has not finished the article. That's why she left to go finish the article to get on the website. So sorry about the delay on that stuff. There's just a lot going on right now. But I did do some very basic testing of the 7950 X3D versus the 9950 X3D.
Okay.
And damn it, yeah, it's good. Guess what? Second gen Vcache, good.
This has the same flip chip Vcache as the 9800 X3D.
Yes. Yeah.
And then one CCD without the Vcache, so it goes brr.
Yeah. Well. Now both of them can have high clocks because the flip Vcache allows that chiplet to hit higher boost clocks. Also, the other thing that Wendell has a great video over on Level 1 Techs. He is one of my favorite reviews to watch at launch because I love his take on stuff. He was talking about how all of this thread scheduling stuff after the original Ryzen 9000 launch, after the Arrow Lake launch, the Series 200S desktop stuff, that both Intel and AMD have really driven into Microsoft, like, hey, the thread scheduling stuff needs to get figured out. So there's actually been a lot of work on the back end. Arrow Lake has improved in performance because of that, but also AMD stuff has improved in performance. And so, like, the thread scheduling stuff it's in a different spot now.
You didn't have to use Process Lasso to get real perf out of this thing?
I mean, I no. Well, I never use it anyway.
Okay.
Because guess what? Defaults matter.
Defaults matter.
Yeah. Right. Call back. But a lot of that stuff is culminating in an experience here, and I don't know. I did not ask AMD specifically. I guess I should reach out to them. But a lot of people were like, "Oh, they had launched the 9800 X3D, and then they were waiting for the multi CCD parts because of who knows, whatever stock, or the 9800 X3D is the one people want anyway." I also think part of it is hey, you want to work out this scheduling thing because it's a big deal, and a lot of people are concerned about it and worried about it. I did not have time to get into that testing. I'm just going off of the reviews that I read, and a lot of people were like, hey, you know what? This is great. I think there's still some weird outliers. Wendell gets over, into a couple of the tests that he ran on Windows versus Linux, and guess what? Linux didn't have any of the problems.
Year of Linux continues.
Yeah, right.
2025, baby.
Also, these are new drivers that if you install the driver package, that it negates the need to do a fresh Windows install. That's something AMD has always talked about, is like, hey, you need to make sure you have a fresh Windows install to make sure that the scheduling performs correctly if you're going from an older chip to a newer chip,
and that's
all that kind of stuff.
That's in the chipset driver package now?
Yeah, now it's in the chipset driver package. I mean, usually when we test, we can test different ways, but, whatever. But, I mean, one of the things I want to talk about, though, is that it feels really weird, though, too, to wake up this morning and see a bunch of thumbnails on YouTube and everyone has smiling faces.
Wait, they're not angry?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, weird for a lot of reasons, but usually I like to go to my scroll of people I subscribe to, and see the faces they're making, because that gives me a quick temperature of the room of like, oh, is everyone mad or is everyone happy? Everyone
there's a lot of up eyebrows, it looks like.
Yeah, everyone's excited, which is definitely a 180 from the 7950X3D, because when that launched, both Gordon and I were very confused as to why people didn't understand why you would get this. The reviews at the time were like, well, this is stupid. Nobody should buy this. All they should get is the 7800X3D because that's the good one. Why would it's a waste of sand, one of those things where it's waste of silicon kind of thing, nobody got it, but Gordon and I were like, well, no, it's the best of both worlds. You get one chip that's good for gaming, another CCD, another CCD that's good for high frequency, and you still get 16 cores, 32 threads for like workstation stuff. Like, guess what? There is a reason to actually have it because you can do a lot more with it.
But man, I think they should have put X3D, the Vcache on both CCDs.
Well, we're still getting that, but whatever. That's a whole other topic.
Should have.
But now people are all of a sudden like, oh, this is great. Now you can do gaming and workstation stuff on it. And it's like, well, yeah, the 7950X3D did that as well.
But I mean, the 7950X3D was a flawed, maybe not because of problems with the chip, but because of problems with the ecosystem. Had 2023 been the year of Linux, we might not have been having this conversation. Whatever. Anyway, the promise, the idea of the 7950X3D at launch was, hey, you get the best of both worlds. And I would say for the most part, that was the goal. And I think that they hit it. Because guess what? If you need something that has, requires a workload of 32 threads, then your 7800X3D ain't keeping up with that. Now people are starting to see the light of like, oh wow, okay, you know what? This is great to have the best of both worlds. So, thought leaders.
Yeah, thought leaders. Yeah.
Okay,
anyway,
so it's fast. That sounds good.
Yeah, and listen, Sir Monkey makes a good point. Yeah, the scheduling issues, I totally get it, right? And like this is one of the things they've been working on with this. The second gen 3D Vcache allowing for higher clocks. Obviously, part of it as well. The price maintains the same. Some people worried about the price. Well, I guess we don't know yet. It hasn't launched yet, so we don't know the pricing. Yeah, so
could
it was
be $1
also
million.
It was also weird that people weren't getting mad or angry about prices because we don't know what the prices are going to be on this. We know the MSRP.
I think we do have the MSRP. Actually, it was announced a couple days ago.
Yeah, but we
have the MSRP. But as we've learned with all these launches, the MSRP means nothing. So
gotcha. All right. As somebody who's running a 7800X3D in this desktop I'm using right now, my question is the delta for the 9950X3D, the difference between that and the 9800X3D, is that a more dramatic change worth the increase in price compared to the 7000 series?
Well, I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, what do you do?
I think he writes for PCWorld.
Yeah.
This is a preview for an upcoming editorial. I sit here and I run like 90% web apps for a solid 8 hours of working. I've actually just gotten onto Photopea off of Photoshop, so I'm even doing my image editing in the web.
Ooh.
And then I also do PC gaming on the same machine.
Okay. Are you feeling the pinch of your 8 cores right now?
I mean, it's Will is a fellow Fortnite degenerate, so he probably knows what I'm experiencing.
Oh no,
here.
am I surrounded by fork knife people? Oh no, they're just growing.
I'm running a 34-inch ultra wide, and off that 7800 X3D, and also a 3070. So it's getting a little dated now, but it's not at a point where I'm struggling to hit like 144 with some nice little features on there.
So are you saying you're just wanting something faster than the 7800 X3D? And you're looking between the 9800 X3D and the 9950 X3D?
Yeah, let's say theoretically that I have $700 to blow right now, but I wouldn't mind saving $200 versus that.
Well, actually, that's funny because we kind of have something that we're working on our end.
On that right now.
Because, Will has a 7800 X3D in his system at home, and he's been running that, and he has been feeling the pinch of the 8 cores.
But I don't do as much web stuff. I do actual like client stuff. I have Unreal or Godot or something like that open fairly regularly, and then also have video editors and capture stuff going at the same time. And 8 threads.
I'm
or
a
16
keyboard
threads.
jockey. So I do not do like the big iron stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. But so we actually I'll give you a little preview. We're working on a feature. You went home and installed the 9800 X3D.
Yep.
So you're getting a feel for that. Like, hey, you know what? Is 8 cores enough? But now these are faster 8 cores.
Yeah, it turns out at first they're slower, and then you reinstall the chipset faster, and then they get real fast.
Don't forget to install the drivers.
You got to install the chipset drivers every time you,
especially if you're not
CPU
doing a fresh AMD or a fresh Windows install.
Coming from Intel, I've never had a chipset last long enough to change the CPU in it. So
right. And then also, we're gonna send Will home with this one to be like, oh, okay, like, do you, for what you do, which is pretty heavy iron stuff, like, is there no 8 cores in the world that is going to be able to work for you that you actually need to step up to it? He's kind of doing that same thing, you know. I think for you though, like 8 faster cores is probably enough for you. In my mind, like stepping up to actually I guess, or there's the 9900 X3D, so the 2 6-core. That one is always a little confusing to me, but supposedly there are actually a lot of people who do like having that one.
It's a little cheaper. It's having the I worry with console games having access to 8 cores now and have for a while. Like, I actually see games that spike all the cores in my CPU on my system right now fairly regularly, and I worry that like Indiana Jones is going to have problems if it tries to get 8 threads going on one of those 6-core dual 6-core CCDs. So
one of the knockoff effects, because I was actually talking with a friend of the show over at Machines and More. I love his YouTube channel. Go check it out, Machines and More. Really good testing. He's a fellow small form factor nerd. And we're talking about the 7800 X3D versus the 9800 X3D, because currently in my gaming rig, I still have a 7800 X3D on a low profile air cooler. And he's like, you know, like, he's noticed a lot of people are still holding on to their 7800 X3Ds on small form factor stuff, because yes, you get the added performance with the 9800 X3D, but because it's clocking higher, it now can pull more power, which means more heat. So yes, you get the benefit, but it's also can be a drawback. So I guess, like, for you, like, would you be willing to have a little bit more heat in your system?
Mine's full size ATX. Not really. Space is not an issue for me.
No, like heat coming off of it. Like I don't know.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, like, because that's the other thing to factor in is, like, okay, like with the extra performance, you also need to know that you're going to be pulling more wattage. You're going to be dumping a little bit more heat into it, jumping from a 7800 X3D to a 9800 X3D. And the same thing I saw for the 7950 X3D versus the 9950 X3D. I guess I can bring up my chart, or no, I put the charts in Slack, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah, so let me go over here. So, like, total power draw on Cinebench, I did an all-core 10-minute run on Cinebench 2024. It turned in a much higher score. Yeah. But guess what? It had to pull
It's 50 extra watts, 75 extra watts.
Yeah,
it
about
looks like.
75 extra watts to do it. Right? So not that it's an inefficient chip. I'm not saying that. It's just you're able to get more out of it. Like So where the 7800 or the 7950 X3D, and I should say I was at default settings, so PBO auto, which we learn now is PBO off. So these are at default settings. You can push both of them harder if you wanted to. But at idle power draw, the 9950 X3D was pulling that's 10 more watts lower at idle. So not that it's an inefficient CPU. I don't want to paint that. It just you can pull more out of it if you want.
The unfortunate thing is that your normal day-to-day use with a million Chrome tabs open and 2 other applications is going to be somewhere between those 2 deltas, right?
Yeah,
you're going to see, and it's really hard to make a repeatable test of hey, here's how people normally use computers, because the benchmarks all stress stuff, and the idle is always idle, and you're never going to be at either of those extremes.
Yeah, it's one of those things that Gordon always talked about was oh man, how can we show real world testing on CPU stuff? We have some stuff in the works. Definitely trying to figure out some of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe I don't know if we should talk about it here, but I think that there's a way to record a day's work on, say, use a Raspberry Pi as an intermediary between your mouse and keyboard and your computer, and then hook that up to a splitter and play that back. But it's a fair undertaking.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway,
an intriguing idea, certainly.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, something else to gather that I've wanted to revisit the Arrow Lake desktop series to see the improvements that have happened over there, because they have, through scheduling, through updates, all that kind of stuff. But depending on what you're doing, it just isn't keeping up. For gaming, the AMD holds a solid win for gaming, and and I saw that in all the testing that I ran. I mean, crap, even the workstation stuff like Cinebench, even though technically Arrow Lake has more cores, the big performance cores on Ryzen are better. I mean, I think there are still some places where Intel still has an advantage. I believe I didn't compare any of the numbers right now, but Premiere Pro still, depending on what codec you're using, can still favor Intel. Or any other video rendering thing the
DaVinci Resolve?
No. The CPU based Handbrake. Thank you. Sorry, my brain is mush. So there are still things that Intel
Thanks daylight savings time.
Yeah.
Blame it on daylight savings.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks. That you would still maybe look at Intel for, but yeah. I mean, for the most part, Arrow Lake is definitely a first gen kind of product. So.
It's well, I mean, I thought Wendell's video about the Arrow Lake machine that
really good
the
video.
the Talon machine that Falcon Northwest sent him was really interesting, and made me kind of want to reevaluate that, because I know that they've done a lot of work on the back end to bring perf up a little bit from where it launched at. I'm honestly just excited that it seems like we had a CPU launch, that there were no
the launch is tomorrow.
Okay, well we had a CPU review cycle where there weren't any weird hiccups. There wasn't any screwing up with the driver, with the back end, with Windows. Nothing. The numbers were what was expected. It seems pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and actually, one of the things that a lot of people have slammed, rightfully so, the Ryzen 9000 launch, was AMD's internal testing was done in a way that didn't show actually, what would be out in the real world. I will say the sanity check numbers that they gave, and the sanity check numbers I ran on here were right in line at stock, not even overclocked or anything, or not overclocked, but PBO or anything like that. So the numbers seem to line up with their actual testing. So it seems like they took the feedback on how they tested it, the numbers that they presented. So yeah, I mean, all around, this is a great CPU.
Cool.
I love it. I think it is literally the culmination of the best of both worlds that they were hoping for with the 7950 X3D, and just now even better. So yeah, now I guess we'll see, can it stay in stock? Is it going to be at the actual MSRP? I don't know.
The 9800 X3D was obviously in super high demand for a solid 2 months, but I have seen it in stock sporadically for the last few weeks. And I think I would guess that there's going to be less demand just because of those higher prices. So hopefully we'll be in a better spot.
Yeah, I just went to US Newegg right now, and you can get a 9800 X3D for $480.
Wasn't the 7800 like 300, 350 or 400? What did it launch at? 350, 400?
Oh, I don't remember what the launch prices were. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, I mean, this is not a markup, and it's in stock. So woohoo!
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Anyway, we got to keep going because we need to get out of here. Q&A. If you got a question, get in right now. We might get to it, or we might get to it later. If you're watching or listening to this later, there's a link over to our Discord in the description where you can throw a question in one of the channels that we have over there. I have actually a couple from last week that I did not get to that I wanted to get to. Friend of the show, Genever1G1 from last week asked, do you think NVIDIA kept these cards downclassed, meaning the 70 class 5080 or the 60 class 5070, so that they can keep MSRP the same after tariffs?
Man,
I think the production time on that is so far out that it would be a coin flip for them, not to get into more politics as to who won and how that would affect the market. It would surprise me greatly if they were able to nail anything down last year while they were hammering out the end of the production for these chips.
Yeah, it feels like there's so many moving parts that you can't just point to that and be like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the decisions they'd made on the actual hardware would have happened a long time ago. Long ago. They can, as we said during the AMD, when AMD announced that they were delaying the announcement of the RDNA 4 stuff, they can adjust pricing, but for the most part, their hardware stuff is locked in 12-ish months, 12 or 18 months in advance. So, because the memory, it's not like they can even change memory configurations at this point late, because the memory configurations on these boards now are intrinsic to the way the controllers are set up and all that.
Yeah. Also, the cost of goods, this process, even though it's essentially the same process as a previous generation, I mean, it's still expensive. Yeah. I mean, I think NVIDIA is like they're making their moves at the high end. That's obviously where they are kind of unrivaled, because nobody else is there to compete them, and they're stagnant in the mid and lower end, supposedly. I mean, I guess we're hearing rumors of a 5060 Ti, all that stuff. We have no idea what that is, but I mean, if the 5070 was any indication, that 5070 was like, oh, okay, huh. So that's just
meh.
I mean, it's just like, oh, hey, we need a new number on shelves, and here's the same thing but with a new number.
I think if anything, I think that the driving mission of this generation is, don't let our cheap cards accidentally eat into the high end GPU compute desktop and workstation market. So they didn't want to make a 5080 or a 5070 Ti that would be that would serve as I'm doing data analysis or high-end GPU compute on a workstation type space. Which
I mean, and I saw that even in the 5070 benchmarks for the AI. I used the Procyon AI text gen stuff. I was like, oh, hey, that's one of the defining features of the 50 series is the AI performance, and that showed in the 5090 and the 5080 and to a certain degree the 5070 Ti. But that 5070 was like, oh, the AI performance on that is not what I thought it'd be.
I mean, look, if you're running a university lab and you have to buy a bunch of GPUs for data analysis, they absolutely want you buying 5090s for that. They do not want you buying 30 5070s instead of 30 5090s.
Yeah, come on down to APMU, and we'll run large language models.
Yeah. Just put them on the 50 tops on your Lunar Lakes. Just get a bunch of Lunar Lake nucks. It'll be fine.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, so good question. I like that one. Also, one from last week that we didn't get around to from friend of the show, Coffee. If you were building a PC today, what's one component or feature you'd absolutely prioritize? I really like this question. Mike, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, boy.
Oh, gosh.
Like, if it, like looking at all the hardware that you were going to put in there and you're like, hey, you know what? I have to have 20 USB Type A ports, or I have to have RGB. I mean, you have to have RGB.
I tell you,
but
the thing that I've been dreaming of for, I think, over a decade is the ability to have a laptop that docks into external graphics and have that work as my full fat triple screen work setup that I use every day. And I think Razer did it with their, I want to say, Blade Stealth almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I wanted that so bad. And the performance difference between that and even just a regular gaming laptop was not there. Last week, or maybe the week before that, Framework showed off their new stuff with the latest, greatest AMD laptop hardware that gives me the option to upgrade it next year if I want to. And we're getting to a point where external GPUs can do that. So if I had $2,000 of discretionary spending to do right now, that's what I would blow it on. I would get one of the best new Framework laptop that I can, and I'd plug it into my desktop 3070 that I've got right now, and I would be just ecstatic in the confident knowledge that I can upgrade every single one of these components like it's a desktop when I want to.
Yeah. I got good news for you about that Razer laptop you missed. I actually bought one of those with the external dock, and the CPU fan in that Razer laptop was so loud that I used it for like demos, and that was it. I never used it in real life.
So I realized that might not be the answer that you're looking for, and I do build desktop PCs and love building them, but that's what I've been craving for the longest time, and we might be there. Give it another week to see how these new Framework laptops work. Especially, I want somebody to test that with an external, 5070 Ti, get around that level, see how it compares. Ooh, I want it so bad.
yeah, I am kind of working on something like that along the lines too, because I have switched. I'm doing a switching video. I've switched from my desktop system at home to a docking solution. I've now tried Ryzen AI 300, so Strix Point. Right now I'm currently doing Lunar Lake, and then I just got in the Asus ROG Flow Z13 with the new Strix Halo. So I'm trying to live that life right now of, I don't need a desktop. I can take my laptop wherever I want to go, and then when I go home, I plug it in and get access to a powerful GPU.
Yeah, and you actually have a lot more justification for it, because I mean you're there in the lab. You're going to far more like actual traveling events than I am. I spend 99% of my time working from home at this very nice setup that I've been doing for the better part of 20 years.
Wait, then why do you want it to be?
For this.
Yeah, why do you want the parts to be?
Because it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It really is cool.
There you go.
I wanted it then, and I want it now.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Will, what would you prioritize?
Man, I don't know. I think it's a lot of cores. I have given Intel a lot of flack for the Raptor Lake stuff over the last 2 years here. I miss having 24 threads of hardware in the machine, it turns out, and I think it would have to be just a big giant CPU with a whole buttload of cores.
Well, AMD's got that too.
I'm interested. It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
The other one, like the old answers are all like SSD and stuff like that. Honestly, the other thing is a really nice monitor. Like I had forgotten how nice it is to have a nice monitor. And they last for such a long time.
Damn you, Brad.
Yeah, I have an old 4K monitor that's my second monitor, and I had a 360 hertz 1080p panel, and I'm testing out these OLEDs, these 4K 240 hertz OLEDs, one of them right now, and it's a transformative. Like it looks so nice, and it impacts literally everything you do with the computer, because it's the main way you interact with the computer. So I would. It's funny. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, I have a 4080, and I'm looking to upgrade my computer this year." I was like, "Just don't. Just keep your 4080 and buy a nice monitor or something if you feel like you have to spend that money on something. But don't. Like, you're fine."
Willis, what kind of feature would you prioritize in a new build right now?
I'm torn right now. I'm torn between either a small form factor. Thank you, Adam, for introducing me to
Nerds.
that, or a monitor. But I think if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick a small form factor case, just because being practical, I probably would like to save more space on my desk. Like,
because you have your computer on the desk right now.
On the desk,
Weird.
Yeah, not on the floor,
So
on the
weird.
desk.
Yeah. Computer off floor.
Off floor. No, yeah, definitely off floor. So I love to just save some space to put other things to decorate my desk and whatnot, just to keep it clean, organized. I mean, if anything, if space wasn't an issue, yes, I would love a bigger case, full RGB and bigger coolers and all that stuff. But yeah, I have a tiny desk, so smaller case would be better.
Nice. All right. I like that.
What about you, Adam?
For me, size. Yeah, like having
Bigger's
options.
better. You just love a
smaller
huge computer.
Yeah, yeah, and efficiency. Honestly, like I feel like on the CPU side, the pendulum is starting to swing, more towards efficiency. Right. On the GPU side, we're not quite there. I mean, I will say, the 5090 does undervolt pretty well. But other than that, yeah, like actual features, I will. Newer motherboards have new releases for the Wi-Fi antennas. If you use Wi-Fi,
I love those.
Those are really nice. I because right now I have the screw ones on my small form factor, and I accidentally ripped one of them out, and I was like, dang it. So that I like being able to have a button to eject GPUs. That's just a me thing because I'm constantly swapping GPUs for.
I haven't seen this new quick release thing for the Wi-Fi. What does that look like?
I don't have one here that I can pull real quick, but yeah. So instead of the little screw, the B and C screw, it's more like a. Are you familiar with like a B and C? Nah, probably not. Like you kind of pull the sleeve back and then twist.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. You're kind of like ejecting, or you're when you insert it in, the plastic kind of jumps over it, and then you pull it back out to kind of eject it. So it's kind of like a nice quick release mechanism, rather than like having to sit there and like constantly screwing or accidentally pulling something out.
Family show, Adam.
Yeah.
Can I change my answer? I want lower power because I hooked a watt meter, like a smart plug watt meter up to my desktop PC, just the tower, just to see how much electricity I'm using, and like at idle I'm pulling 137 watts on the desktop PC, and under full load it's spiking up to 656. It looks like, according to my TP-Link smart plug. So yeah, maybe I should undervolt some. Maybe I should do some undervolting experimentation.
Yeah.
That's the lesson, I guess.
Anyway, let's see. I think, is there any questions over here we want to get to? We are running long on time, and we have stuff that we need to do. Oh, there's a new Silent Hill transmission. Oh, thank you, Liquid R. Oh, I'm so excited. Yay. All right.
I love Silent Hill. It's my fave.
Okay. Here, I've never seen this person here over on Discord. Ghostly Pie asks, are modern APUs a viable option, or are they missing performance / ray tracing, making them unviable to keep up on the latest games? Well, I mean, hey, that's Strix Halo. That's an APU that is supposedly very hardcore. I have not used it. I'm currently setting it up, so I guess wait on further testing on that. Well, but listen, like I also think performance / viability changes on what you want. APUs on a Steam Deck, like say the Steam Deck, hey, the Steam Deck's awesome. Like, yes, you can't play the latest ray tracing, and it might struggle with the latest and greatest games, but I still say it's a viable option.
Do you know what I do with my Steam Deck?
Do you play it?
I run the game on the computer where I have the really nice video card and all the ray tracing stuff, and then scale it down to 1280 by 800 on the desktop, and then blast it over the network to the Steam Deck, and I get the best of both worlds.
So you say APUs are not viable then?
I think it depends. I think that's the answer is complicated. I don't think you're gonna. Am I able to see the benefits of ray tracing on the little low resolution screen? Probably not. I mean, I know it's there. I know it's happening. I know that math is happening. It makes me happy. But does it look as good as it does on the 27-inch OLED in the other room? No.
Yeah. I would say
if you're somebody who cares about something like ray tracing, you're never going to get all the performance that you want out of an APU, whatever generation we're talking about, because the target shifts up and moves as the discrete graphics get more powerful. As amazing as the Steam Deck and all those other competitors are, considering the power that they have, if you care about the latest, fanciest widgets in whatever it is that you're gaming on, and you want to see all that power on display, you're going to want the real muscle in there, as it were.
Well, and that's why I feel like with RDNA 4, with the potentially new consoles coming out within the next couple of years, like the industry is starting to move like, hey, you know what? Ray tracing is becoming more and more important for the latest games. So we need to build that kind of functionality at every level, not just the high end. So I actually think like the whole thing we talk about with the consoles being the lowest common denominator, the more and more that they're going to have ray tracing features introduced into the consoles, that's going to have the same knockoff effect on the other APUs in Windows land, right? So like are they viable right now for modern ray tracing heavy features? No, they're viable gaming for damn sure, just not the highest end stuff. But in a couple years time, like I think the ray tracing stuff, like, I mean, it's always going to be lower end for sure, but it's still like, yeah, I think I like APUs, and I think that's honestly like, rather than having a $150 GPU on the market like a RX 580 or something, APUs have pretty much supplanted that.
Yeah, and it really, like, resolution matters too. Like if you're playing 1080p, an APU is probably going to be great for you. If you're playing at 4K, it's not going to be a great fit probably.
Yeah. So, okay. Last one from friend of the show, VC Jester. Controversial question, and we'll get out of here. We love to end on controversy. Now that so much can be done via mobile devices, consoles, and tablets, do you believe that the newer generations are becoming computer illiterate?
Let's talk about millennials.
Yeah,
guys.
these young kids.
These kids, all the 40-year-olds.
Youngins.
It varies from person to person.
Yeah, I think you're the one with a younger generation in your house.
I have a 12-year-old. She's a gen something younger than Z. I don't know.
Does she look at a computer and she's like, I don't know how to use this?
I'm going to tell you, when I rolled in with the CRT, she was like, that looks just like the one from Stranger Things. I was like, okay, now.
And you're like, oh, look at this floppy disk. And she's like, ooh, a save icon.
Yeah, exactly. It really varies from kid to kid. Like, as she started playing more computer games, it's been a gateway for her to learn about how the computer works. So she likes to record videos of her playing the games, and then she had to learn how to use File Explorer because she has a whole giant folder of old videos that she left running, and they're crapping up her hard drive or her SSD. So, like, if all you give your kid to play games on is an iPad, they're going to be great at an iPad, and they're never going to learn anything else. I catch her playing Fortnite on her own. She plays Minecraft. Like, she likes playing PC games now without me having to do anything other than take old PC hardware I had laying around and jam it in a crappy small form factor case that I had laying around and set her up with Windows and a Steam shared library and telling her to go nuts. So, nice. So no, I don't think this is a generational shift. I think this is a person by person change. And, like, for the most part, like, do boomers know how file systems work? Probably not. No, it's just what do you need to know to do the things that you want to do on the computer? Yeah, I will say over the weekend, I've talked about this a couple times. I have helped my grandma get a new computer. She got the pop-up on her laptop that's very old of like, oh, hey, Windows 11 is coming. And she's like, oh, can you help me get a new computer? So I got her a small form factor system. I kind of pre-installed and pre-configured. And then over the weekend, I had shipped it, and then over the weekend I got on a call and helped her configure that stuff. And I mean, this is no shade to her, but like, I definitely had to help. I definitely had to do the driving, and a lot of concepts. She was just like, oh, what's the cloud? Look, at least you don't. At least you can tell her to, like, get on a voice video call and have her point the phone at the thing that you're looking at.
Actually, for the first time, I used the built-in remote function in Google Chrome.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. And it actually works really well.
That's a fantastic tool for exactly that.
Actually works really good.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's what does that person want to do and how do they want to do it? Like, just to give everybody a frame of reference of where we're coming from. I'm 37 years old. I've always been the computer obsessed guy. I'm the free tech support for your friends and family. I cannot use a command line. I can do basic stuff in the run tool, but if you want to get me on an old DOS machine, I'm completely useless. And I am a professional computer expert. Okay, there's
capital
a whole,
P professional.
I get paid for this crap. I'm supposed to know this stuff. And there's a whole part of the history of computing that I am just completely useless at. So as these kids grow up, they're absolutely going to become more comfortable on phones and tablets than they are Windows PCs or even Mac computers. But if they want that, they're going to put the time that it takes in to learn that, and it's not going to be a problem for them.
That's exactly it.
I know. Yeah, I've known 40-year-olds who do not know how to load up MP3s on their phone when they want to, and I've had to help them with that. That's pretty rare, but it's a thing that happens. I think the more interesting problem is going to come up as these kids have access to AI generation tools, specifically for text. For if they can, if you tell a 12-year-old that they can point to ChatGPT and get a 10-page paper written for them in 30 seconds, that's going to be incredibly tempting for them, and that might start to erode their ability to actually write. And I think that's going to be a much bigger problem.
There's a Microsoft study that actually came out a couple weeks ago that explicitly says, hey, relying too much on these generative AI tools erodes our ability to do critical thinking. So,
it's fine.
No.
It's fine.
No,
and to be clear, I'm somebody who writes professionally. I wrote, I think Brad, my editor, told me yesterday or the day before that I wrote 600 articles for PCWorld last year.
Wow. Nice.
So that is my marketable skill. So the fact that I'm saying this is a problem, take that with a grain of salt. Because I mean,
you have a vested
and
interest.
I absolutely believe that you can't point a GPU at my work and replicate, say, do exactly this much stuff and have it be as valuable. But if you have kids who lean on that as a crutch for creating text and communicating with other people, even using AI tools to like reply to text messages, that might create some big problems for us coming down the line.
Well, all they need to do is have a version of ChatGPT that when it writes a paper for you, it throws in words like Riz and skibbity toilet, and then
no cap, bro.
Yeah, no cap, and then
never
it
use
sense.
the word delve. Is that what we've decided at this point?
I think there's look, all of these articles about children, younger generations not knowing how to do anything. I always think back to all the stories that ran 10 years ago about millennials buying so much avocado toast that they couldn't afford to buy houses. And
oh no.
And like those articles always were without the context of wages have been stagnant, housing costs have increased dramatically, external investors are buying a lot of housing and using it as short-term or long-term rentals, yada yada yada. And it just became a punchline of, man, millennials sure love avocado toast. It's destroying their ability to own a home. And it's always that.
That one's true, though.
So VC Jester is just trolling us and causing strife. Pod beefs starting right here because of VC Jester.
Yeah,
thanks for that.
If your podcast condones eating avocado toast, then you're got
you're bad
beef
for the
with
economy.
You. Yeah, it should be beef toast.
I can't remember if it was Plato or Aristotle, but it was one or the other, that was like, writing this stuff down to preserve knowledge is absolutely going to destroy society. And he refused to do it. He remembered everything that he's ever been known for and relayed it orally. So this idea that the new cool thing is destroying us, it has been going on for literally millennia.
Just to be clear.
So always think critically about it.
That was Plato, and then his student Aristotle went on a trip to Africa, saw a female lion giving birth, the mother died, the one cub survived, and he was like, well, every time a lion gives birth, the mother dies, because he had the sample size of one and wrote that down. And for a long time, that was the understanding of how lions work, without realizing that a female lion dying every time it gave birth to one cub would result in a half population every generation. And lions would have been extinct, thousands of years ago. So maybe Plato was right, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I want to be clear here. there are problems that are being created by technology. We've seen just the basic way that we interact with people over screens versus in person has created big changes in our society that are not always positive. So it's never completely one way or the other. Yeah. I think the big thing that I'm worried about is people having access to huge amounts of text generation with no effort. And we're getting to the point where it's huge amounts of images and video with no effort, and people's ability to discern and trust what is real and what is not. That's what I'm scared of. How people use this machine versus the other machine, and whether that's a plus or minus, that doesn't overly concern me. Even as somebody who's obsessed with mechanical keyboards and loves the function of typing into a computer is something I truly enjoy. Mm-hmm. But if somebody does the same thing and types out on an iPad or a phone for 2,000 words, that doesn't affect me, and I really don't care how they do it.
Every time we've had a technology that made generating text easier, it's increased the amount of spam we have to deal with dramatically. I wrote about this in my newsletter this week.
Wait, you mean over at next.content.town?
That's it, next.content.town.
Which now has a new paid subscription.
I wasn't going to bring that up here, but yeah, it does. Not? Well, people get it. Like, it's fraught. But I like to eat. I like
paying
food.
For subscriptions is
paying
fraud?
Money for things is, people don't like paying money for things.
Yeah, but this one's good.
But I like food, and I think it's a good product. Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate that. But the point is, I looked at what happens with spam generation, because one of the common themes is, AI is going to solve all these problems for us. And it's not, because there's way more people that are going to use AI to generate spam than will go out. And I went on, and I didn't link to them for obvious reasons, but there are actually tools you can buy that will generate an entire website that is just affiliate links to product reviews with affiliate links out to Amazon, Newegg, wherever you can get affiliate links. That will build this own, like, it's like spam site in a box for whatever product category you want. And like when you look into product reviews, the web is getting crapped up with these at an alarming rate. Huh. And it's like the example I gave was the home air filtration stuff. Like home air filters was one of the first categories that got hit with this, and you saw like Teen Vogue and Glamour and all these sites that have high general page rank were showing up with AI generated reviews of air filters that were eating the lunch of all the specialty air filter sites. But they weren't actually real reviews. They were just like aggregated, stolen reviews aggregated in whole for the generative AI tools. And it's really nasty.
Nasty.
Anyway,
you know what else is nasty is how long this podcast has gone on. We need to get out of here.
Yeah, close to 3 hours.
Yeah, check back next week for your fix of PC talk here on the Full Nerd. It's actually GDC. We are actually next week. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure how it'll bear out, but we might actually be doing an episode live from GDC. We might be doing it here. I'm not quite sure. TBD, I guess.
TLDR.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, the Game Developers Conference. We always show up and have some fun. And
we see some game developers.
Yeah, see some gaming stuff. Maybe some hardware. There's every once in a while. There's a little bit of gaming hardware. There will be gaming news. So the episode next week will focus on gaming news. I'm trying to maybe have a guest on too. I have confirmation that some people who have been on the show before are going to be in from out of town, and some people I want to be on the show are in from out of town. So we'll see.
Mystery.
Next week's episode is coming in hot.
I want to go to the alt control thing and shoot some videos there.
Oh yeah,
people that make the weird one-off controllers.
That
for
thing's
their
always fun.
Games.
Yeah. Anyway, check back next week. Yeah. To listen to us on the go, subscribe to us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Pocket Casts. Did I already say that? Deezer. If you are on one of those services, please leave a review. Every time we do, Mike Kreider gets more beard hair. So we want him to see a full beard over here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, having fun with us in the chat. I know it went a little long. I also want to thank Elena Yee for showing up. She's gone. I'm pointing to the screen. She's not there anymore. She's in chat.
Shout out.
Thanks, Elena, and thanks for weaving the hard topic of tariffs. I thought she did an awesome job, so thank you. Thank you, Mike, for stopping by. We'll definitely need to have you on more. So yeah, thanks for hanging out.
I'll be happy to come in anytime.
Yeah, come in. Yeah, you should come in physically.
Well, if you
that'd be fun.
If you've got an extra $500, $600, $700 for a round trip,
We'll talk to
plane
Brad.
ticket, hey,
It's okay.
Look, the hotel's what really gets you in San Francisco now. You just sleep in the lobby, though.
Yeah,
It'll be
there you
fine.
go. Yeah. Thank you, Will, for hanging out
Thanks for having
and
me.
keep PUBG weird.
Yeah, this is my anti-sweaty PUBG t-shirt.
Oh, okay. I like it.
No sweaty players in PUBG.
Yeah. And before I hand it over to Willis to get us out of here, I do have a statement regarding a PC World and or Full Nerd stream tomorrow. There will be a PC World live build stream tomorrow.
What?
Hey.
Please continue to check official channels for more information about PC World and the Full Nerd. So thank you, Willis, for controlling the verticals and horizontals. Get us out of here. I'm hungry.
Righty. Thank you, Adam. Elena and friend of the show, Ziv, reminded me that for this year's Computex, I should just buy snack products that's under $800, not $1 more, so then I don't get pulled over in customs. So
No, you just don't tell them.
yes.
You don't tell them what it's
$800
worth.
snack.
Why
That's
would
a
you
lot
tell
of
them what it's
luggage, man.
worth?
Look, I had a friend who bought a Rolex when he was on a trip one time. And he scuffed it all up because he was like, he wanted it to look like he'd had it for a while.
Yeah.
And then he got there and they were like, hey, did you buy that watch? He choked, admitted that he bought the watch while he was there. And the duty was $12. So he
See,
ruined his brand new
that's
watch
stupid.
to save $12.
Oh, dude,
my
you just don't tell them.
Well, anyways, thank you so much, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye.
Don't narc yourself. You know, like why would you?
I'm
out
going to put you
yourself?
on the watch list.
Hey, that's you know.
I'm gonna
Honest
submit
Abe,
you.
that's why.
They're just gonna find Kinder eggs. That's okay.
Not.